Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Academic Foxhole. I'm Super JP. Hi. So I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then there was DNS problems, but I fixed them on the PS4 because the last time I lived here, I'd actually connected my PS4 to the network via Ethernet cable, but I have moved my PS4 from the other room to here in the office so that I can directly connect the PS4 to the computer, and I don't have to go through the PS4 network, which is just a bit more stable and better quality. So I was like, okay, this will be way better, which it is. But then I had to deal with internet stuff. But it's all worked out. It's all worked out. And hey, everybody. And what else did I want to tell you? Oh, right. And then I couldn't find my water bottle, but I found it. Hi, how are you? Ice Bunny, of course game is happening. I mean, one of the whole reasons why I started streaming this so that I could actually play video games rather than not ever play video games, which happens too often with me sometimes because I work too much. How are you all doing? It's our first Saturday. No banjo today because I haven't been able to get my fingers back because of moving. But I'm hoping once all of the classes start, I've started my first class this last week, and then I'm starting my next class this coming week, so on Tuesday. Then I'll have everything sort of settled, and then I'll be able to sort of rotate that back in to my life, as well as writing like a maniac, which is what I'm doing today. How late was I up geeking out with PB posting? Oh, actually, I wasn't up late geeking out with PB because PB had to go and play Wild RP. I was just up late last night doing my post-show admin. Because once the show is over, I usually go and, put in the description, make a highlight on Twitch, export it to YouTube, create a thumbnail, put the thumbnail in, wait till it finishes processing, schedule it to be to go live on YouTube, write down any kind of documentation. Anyway, I've got like after every show I do a whole bunch of admin, and if I don't do it right after the show, I tend to forget to do it, and then they do not show up on YouTube for a while, and that's not great. But I did it. So I did all that stuff. I was up pretty late though. I try to figure things out and ended with 3 pages of things, and that include how to get to IKEA and a shopping list. Well, that's good. Did you have you Ice Bunny, have you spoken to your coach yet? Because I'm sure that's pretty awesome. If at the moment I'm half using this system called Get Things Done. I just have been a little bit busy. You know how it is. Let me think. So what are you all doing? I've got to figure out if I'm going to be taking my class online. I think we're not allowed to have our classes be online only without permission from the deans, but I think we've been given special permission to do it next week, and I think I will do that for my large class, where I think at least like 10% of my class currently has COVID and is in quarantine. So, right? So we will see how that goes. We will see how that goes. I see here on my little notifications tab that I owe you a Streamiversary song. PH said, I watched Cthulhu today in one go. So good. Oh, you watched it in one go? Oh my gosh, PH. I'm so glad you liked it. You reminded me that I wanted to tell you all about Cthulhu Confidential since it's over, and I can tell you some things. But first, then also, hey PH, it's good to see you. The name game. Come on, everybody. I say now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there, and then a B or an F, and an M will appear. And then I say Bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and foe. Then I say the name again with an F very plain. Then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time. And there isn't any name that I can't rhyme. Rissa, 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 Bobissa, Banana, Fanta, Fofissa, Fee, Fi, Momissa. Rissa, the name game. Thank you for that resub. 33 months. Crown says, wait, you had just a 2-session confidential? That's possible. We did that. I was checking. Jackie Dash, 2 sessions for both the Howling Fog and also Fatal Frequency. Capital Color was 3, and also Dex Raymond, Fathomless Sleep, that was 3. So the gents 3 sessions and the gals 2, which I think is interesting. You just reminded me of what I forgot at the moment. The Rona is crazy here in Denmark, and she had a baby, and yeah, that's right. I know that you mentioned that she does a walk and talk online or online. Yes. Hey, Barantor. So women are better investors in it? Maybe. It's entirely possible. So that's what I've noticed. So I'm very excited about that. It's interesting. Okay, so I wanted to tell you about the 2 things I wanted to do, only one of which I got to do. So one thing, I wanted to get some red lights. Well, they're LED color lights, which I have them, so that, if I need to, I can go and I can have red, which we used to affect yesterday. I can have other colors too, but I can have red. So I got that in. So that was set up. I still gotta ponder if I want to set these up in a slightly different configuration, like if that would be better. But nonetheless, I have those there, so that's pretty exciting. There was this other thing that I really wanted to do, but I couldn't do it because I got all the supplies in except for the medical adhesive, which makes me really sad. I had this idea, a wild idea, probably a bad idea, but I had this idea. So do y'all remember the 80s? Maybe not all of you do, but some of you remember the 80s. And so there was a special effect that was popular a practical effect that was popular in the 80s and is no longer popular because we have CGI now. And I was like, oh, I think this would be really cool. Can you connect them to your computer so we control the light? No, actually, I don't think so. These are, I don't think I can, actually. They were like 20 years ago. Yeah, that's right. They were 20 years ago, the 80s. Yeah, just it. So Scanners used it. American Werewolf in London used it. A couple others. And what it is that you attach like a balloon, for better, like an air bladder, sort of on your body somewhere, and then you cover it over with your foam, whatever you got, and then you can pump up that air bladder so it looks like your skin is distorting, right? And so I was like, that would be so cool, because when Sathagua starts coming through your body, your body starts distorting. I thought it would be super cool to have that happen. And oh, hey, by the way, I've got a delivery scheduled for between 3 and 5 groceries. They shouldn't do early, but if I have to jump off, then then I have to grab groceries. Anyway, so you get an air bladder, right? And then you can pump up the air bladder. Why is my Wi-Fi connection lost? Ugh, it's the worst. I feel like, look, here's the thing. Going to my PS4 network over Wi-Fi is gonna be tricky because it's not as stable. Anyway, the point is, right? Yeah, this air bladder effect. And I was like, that'd be so cool, because when this old one starts using your body as a portal, it starts to push through your body. And I thought it'd be really cool if I could do that. So I did all this research online on how to do air bladders. And it turns out it's best to, I did not get donuts. I tend not to get donuts from, oh no, you should still see me. It's just whether or not the PS4 is connected to the network. Anyway, it turns out you have to make them yourself for the most part. There are a couple of places that sell them, but generally you have to make them. So I did all this research last week to go and learn how to create these air bladders. so that you can go and uh, have this weird, cool effect. And I ordered online all of the um, materials that I would need to create this effect, right? Thin, clear plastic, medical adhesive film, liquid latex, uh, zip ties, hand bulb, tubing, like all this stuff. I got all this stuff. But there was one thing that I needed that said it would probably get to me by the 20th, which was Thursday, and that was medical adhesive. Because you need to use a medical adhesive to put the bladder on, and then you liquid latex it. And I was like, okay, I got everything but the medical adhesive. So I was like, dang it, I really wanted to go and put like these bladders on my face, like here, so that when the old one started coming through, I could go and then like have like have my head start getting creepy. I thought that would be so cool. Anyway, I've got all the materials except for the medical adhesive, which is coming this week. So if there's ever an RPG wherein I need parts of my body to start getting weird, I think I'm set up for it. That's what I got. Sitting on a whoopee cushion, kind of like a whoopee cushion is kind of like an air bladder, but also whoopee cushions are awesome. The other kicker, sweet, so did you fall? In January, we try it healthy. The big downside to ordering online. Actually, when I order online, I'm less likely to order sweets than when I go in person. When I go in person, then I see them, and then when I go in person, I get distracted by things, and I just pick up all sorts of things into my grocery bag. But when I'm ordering online, I usually have a list of what I need, and then I just type in what I need on the list, and then I'm done. I actually am I'm much better when I tend to be much healthier when I order online, because that also means I'm actually cooking rather than being like, wow, I have not eaten in 3, 7, 10 hours. I should just order something from Grubhub and get something, not great for me. So I'm here, and actually, I was actually pretty healthy when I was in Atlanta, so I'm back, and I'm trying. This is like going back to teaching. Like this coming week is like the full teaching load. So, and like meetings and all of that. So my goal is to see if I can keep up my healthiness, i.e. eating 3 times a day, over, during the school year. Also helps with sticking to a budget when you can see the basket totals adding up. Oh, that's true. That's true. I hadn't thought about that, but that is true. Oh, you know what I was thinking? I had one thought that I hadn't thought about, and that is I probably need more milk, and I don't remember if I put the milk in there. Milk. And it looks like I didn't. So I'm just going to add some milk because I'm almost out of milk. So I'm just going to do that right now. I'm just going to... Because you know what happens when I get milk? I always buy like a quart because I am a single person and will probably go through it too quickly. So, that's my life. Okay, I did it. It's added to my order, and I feel like everything is good. Boom. Ta-da! Yes. Only one thought. Oh, Volpez. I have so many thoughts. It is inappropriate. Rissa says, I've definitely gone back and taken things out when I look at the outrageous of the total. That's, it's always cheese for me. Well, we don't, Ice Bunny asks, you mean a liter? No, we don't do metric in the United States. We do imperial. We learned it from watching our dad, England. Yeah, so we do like gallons and quarts and half gallons and pints and cups. And a liter is like what? Is it like how much is a liter? We do measure for some things. Yeah, like Olympics, right? Like 30 meter, like 100 meter dash, 500 meter. We also still do miles for like, what do you call them? Marathons, right? But we do like meters for running, right? Except for soda. Oh, jeez. We do ounces. That's true. Ounces is wait. No, ounces is not metric, right? Ounces is still imperial, right? Yes. Oh, no, no, no. I'm thinking of cans. Cans are in ounces, but bottles are in liters. Yes, yes. That is correct. Krellin, that is correct. You get like a 2 liter bottle. Yes, yes, yes. Uh, we have two different sizes of milk cartons. We have like we have like we have quarts and half-gallon milk cartons. Oh, and then we also have pint pint cartons. Yeah, we have different size cartons. And then when you're in high school, when you're in like school, they have the little mini, little teeny tiny milk cartons. Those are cute. Uh, Pint, quart, half-gallon, and gallon. Yeah, and then there was like the little mini ones from school, which I think were less than a pint. I have no idea what that was. It's probably just a cup, right? So 1 and 2 liter is about a pint and a half a liter. Uh, Wait, a cup. Thank you, Volpez. Wait, uh, but you're right about 2 liters. That is true. 2 liter bottles. Um, there was another thing that I can't remember what it was. Yeah, we have 2 liter bottles, right? In the big bottles, and then our cans are in ounces, and 1 liter bottles. What do the 1 liter bottles look like? I'm just used to 2 liters. Hmm. Ah, I don't remember. Um, yeah, and I do 16.9 ounces. Hmm. Oh, yeah. And we also do a gallon is 3.75 liters. 1 liter bottles are replacing the only 20 ounce. Oh, the old 20 ounce. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I see. Okay. Huh. You know what? I wonder. Here's my question. This is a question I have. Why do you think we are using metric in soda beverages that you like, but less in other things? I wonder why that is. The only thing I can think of, and again, I don't know, I have two thoughts in my mind. One is that it might be easier for the people, for international companies to just not relabel the bottles. Because Coca, see, that's Krellin right there. Because Coca-Cola decided to stop making special shit for Americans, right? Yeah, right. So international sales, maybe. Um, but I also, because it ends up to be more, and Americans need sugar to be sweet. Well, sugar should be sweet. Uh, but I'm also wondering if, because when I think about cups, I think about flour. When I think about gallons, I think about liquids. Yeah, so that doesn't work. Yeah, that doesn't work. Also, I want to say everybody says that Americans have all this sort of sweet stuff, but like there is some very sweet stuff in Europe as well. It's not like Europeans. Also, here's a thing I want to say. This was a thing I remember being slightly irritated by when I was in Europe. I had my European friends who are like, "Oh, you Americans, you have such crappy food. All your food's the worst. All your stuff is awful. All your stuff is too sweet. It's the worst." And then they ate it all the time. Like, I was like, "Why do you keep going to McDonald's then?" Do you know what I mean? Like, it was this thing where they would just like talk smack about American food, how like no one ever should eat it. And then they would eat it all the time. And I was like, you know what? Kind of feel like. And then they'd ask me to go on base to go to the PX and get them like the crappiest American food of all time. And I was like, we also have good food. Hey, Schmelzer, like we have good food too. It's just that you're more interested in like getting our crappiest stuff. And it's not like there's only good food in Europe, is all I'm saying. Uh, Trooper says, Krellin, I think maybe your German friends are only happy when it rains. Yeah, well, no, it's because they were really invested in German cuisine being good and actually German everything being good There's also my British friends too, and American things all being bad. Like they're like all of your movies are bad, all of your TV shows are bad, all of your foods are bad, but all of our stuff is good. And I was like, well, then why do you keep watching Knight Rider and Baywatch? Like, we don't even watch that anymore. What's up with that? Anyway, it was just very like I just thought it was really fascinating, that particular relationship because like we had good TV shows. This was the 90s when you didn't have the internet. Well, I mean, we had the internet, but we didn't have Netflix and all that. So they did like it was weird. Getting access to international media was weird. Crone's like, no, it really is only that comes in metric now that I think, but isn't that weird? Schmelzer, Time of Gift says, we changed from imperial measurements to metric when you were growing up. So I know of pints and ounces. I don't understand them as measurements, except milk used to come in pints. Yeah, it's also interesting how, like, people always like, why don't Americans change over to metric? Like, oh, why don't they do that? Like, and I was like, well, I think because it's about conception. Like, there are certain things that because I lived in Germany, I have a pretty decent sense of Celsius. Like, if somebody says, oh, it's this Celsius, I kind of have a sense of what that's like. But like, I cannot get height at all. If you tell me somebody is X, Y in meters, I cannot conceive of that. Or British stone, if somebody's like 13 stone, I have no idea what that means. Like, I don't know what that looks like. So I think sometimes it's about, if you haven't figured out how to change the concept, it gets difficult, PH, no one who eats McDonald's thinks that's a good decision, right? I know. Hey, Artie, how are you? No, I got fat in Germany is hypocrite central. I'm just saying. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't turn that off. Look at me. Look, hey there, Nightbot. How are you doing? Let me, Nightbot. I changed everything else in Nightbot, but I forgot to turn off that one automatic timer. Boom. Done. Finished. Done. Perfect. Because it's a smaller amount than a gallon, so then you can convince people to spend more for less, thinking they're getting this amount 2 liters versus 1 gallon. Knight Rider wasn't a good TV show. It was not a prestige show, right? And so I think that what I want to say is, now what? Did I not switch that over? I really thought I did. Let me just check. So it's about prestige and classiness, right? And this is a thing that I find super interesting personally because I have, oh yeah, I didn't switch that over. Because it's one of the things like, because I have like, I kind of study this as part of my work on jazz in the 20s and 30s and all of that. And just, sort of, I do a lot on international media, right? International popular culture. There we go. That should be all fixed. And I'm really fascinated by the imaginations of places, right? Ice Bunny says, ooh, no, German TV is the worst. All the Rosamunde Pilcher BS, the stories in the UK, but everyone speaks German. Well, I mean, the thing is that we never see those things in the United States. And this is part of the thing that I find really fascinating. Milk in such states pines because people use it for cooking. 13 stones is like a pile of rocks. Artie Sex, it sounds like the people that play MMOs and constantly complain about how bad it is, etc., yet they keep playing and paying for the subscription. How late are we streaming today? I don't know yet. We'll see. It's going to be about our groceries, like 3:30 latest, but if the groceries come early, then, things that are prestigious generally suck. I mean, some of those things are good. I'm glad that you finally got everything there set up. Oh, Artie Snack, not everything is not set up yet. I wish everything were set up, but it is not. As you can see by the boxes, I also have not yet set up my sound curtain on that to cover that door. So I want to set up the sound curtain to cover that door. I just bought a little cord management basket that I want to attach and put all of this that you cannot see, that you should not see, on that basket. I just got 2 new lights that I want to see if they will be nice. So there's some things, right? And of course, you can tell things are not yet unpacked, but I'm getting there. And and I don't have my printer set up, but I'm getting there. It's getting there. Name one prestigious thing that doesn't suck. Oh, Krellin, I will, but in a second. The Expanse. The Expanse is considered prestige TV nowadays. Trooper, do not forget that Knight Rider saved Unite. Yeah. Disagree. Not every show tries to be a prestige show, which should be taken into account when judging them. Yes, but except that even though not everything tries to be a prestige show, prestige still, right, matters for certain reasons. Um, Everything off screen does not count. People say different things. Also, people consider. Well, I'm talking about. Oh, you don't like the Prestige, Krillin? Yeah, the Expanse. I really like it. Um, the thing is, what I would say is, it's true. I'm gonna get the game on. I just want to finish this thought. The thing is that when I say prestige, I don't think that everyone has their own idea of prestige. Is not really. It's not exactly the way that prestige works, because prestige is not individual, it's communal. And no, David Hasselhoff is still around, right? So it's sort of like saying, um, I feel like I have white privilege. Well, that's nice. I can feel like that all I want, but it doesn't mean that I have it, right? Because privilege is not individual, right? It's societal put on an individual. Or vice versa, right? So prestige is collective. Now you might think personally, well, I don't care about prestige, right? But that doesn't change the fact that society as a whole gives capital to, like, it's cultural capital, right? These things about cultural capital, and society gives some things capital and some things prestige and less others. And individuals can be like, well, I don't care about that, like, punk rockers, whatever. Or in subcultures, there can be subcultural prestige, but it's not necessarily. It's not an individual thing. It is a collective and cultural thing, right? So there are things that you may disagree with, that I may disagree with, but I also still know that they have prestige, right? Um, what would be the difference between prestige and popularity? Oh, easy. Um, McDonald's is very popular, but it doesn't have prestige. Oftentimes, things that have prestige are not popular. Sometimes things that are popular have prestige, but not necessarily. But often they don't, right? So, like, you can think about yeah, I never said Game of Thrones was one of the best shows, and then that last season happened. Uh, I still haven't seen the last season yet. Now, of course, does the last season invalidate everything that came before? I don't know. So, classical music has prestige, right? It has a lot of prestige, and classical music makes up like 1% of the music sales market in the U.S. Right? Yeah, theater has prestige, but it isn't as popular. Art films have prestige over blockbusters, but also not as popular. Generally speaking, the more popular something is, the less prestige it has, because we tend to think of some things that are prestigious as things that are elite. And if too many people get access to it, then it's clearly not as elite. So popularity and prestige are not the same. Like, oh, here's another really interesting, and sometimes prestige is weird. Sometimes the things that have prestige are not better, right? Does popular have a correlation to profitable? It depends on what we're talking about, right? Is prestige not drinking champagne even if it's a nasty and expensive? Well, I mean, some prestigious things may not be nasty, but right, and some people like champagne. I'm a super taster, so I don't tend to, but some people like sour. Some people really like that taste. Does popular have a correlation to profit? It depends, because some things may be popular, but nobody pays for them, right? So that's tricky. I never thought Game of Thrones was good myself. I stopped watching after the second episode. Oh, Artie Stack, Game of Thrones is not for you. Game of Thrones is I think is way too violent and grim, I think, for your aesthetic. Like, I would, like, if you had not watched the Game of Thrones yet, Artie Snack, I would not have recommended it to you, because I wouldn't think that it would be your thing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that just wouldn't be your thing. Like, there are people that'd be like, oh yeah, no, I would not recommend Game of Thrones to them. So yeah, so because I like it because it's grim, but yeah, it's not for everyone. Yeah. Yeah, so I think about when it comes to prestige, something, and it's like, uh here's the thing. I don't know if you remember, it was like a couple years ago when the Oscars announced, the Academy of Sciences. Oh, we're gonna put the game on. That's what we're gonna do. We'll put the game on. Here we are. I don't know if you remember, but there was a couple years ago when the Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Oscar people, decided to add a new category to the Oscars, which is like best popular film, right? I think that was the category they wanted to add, like best popular film, and they would put like the Black Panther and the Marvel movies and all that kind of stuff in that category. And people lost their mind. They're like, absolutely not. We see what you're doing and we don't like it, which was that the Oscars don't tend to nominate big popular blockbuster films for best picture. They tend to nominate them for things like or acting or directing. They tend to nominate them for like special effects and makeup and maybe costuming, maybe. But they don't tend to nominate them for there we go. And but they don't tend to nominate them for like acting, directing, best picture, right? They did that because got away with they did that because they got away with introducing best animated film after Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, and so they this was like a what is that? So they wanted to do this to put all those big blockbusters on there, and people lost their minds. They're like, no, you just want to do that. What you want to do is you want to have a category where all these films that lots of people love are represented so that they'll watch your show, but you don't want to actually give them best picture, right? So people were like, we feel like this best popular picture Oscar is not going to have as much prestige as the best picture, and we don't want Black Panther getting best popular picture. We want it to get best picture. So there was a lot of outcry, and the Oscars decided not to add the best popular film category, so that's not there. But you can see, right, that they're like, so they thought they could get away with another spin-off category. Yeah. And people didn't like it. They were like, no, we see what you're doing. You want to keep the best picture snobby, right? And you don't want to open up the category to things that you think have less, things that have less prestige. So no. And so they didn't add it. But like you can see, like this is the thing that happens with the Oscars all the time. Like I remember, especially in the 80s and 90s, when the best picture would go to some film that nobody had seen. Some people had seen it, and sometimes I had seen it and liked it. And like these huge films did not win, right? Like, and then people were like, oh well, what do we do about that? So like I think that's right. So that's about prestige. And what I find really interesting when I lived in Europe was that I learned something by comparing it to my life in the United States. And one of the things I learned is that in the United States, we tend to almost like, again, this is before the time when you could go on Netflix and watch things from international countries, right? But when we didn't really have access, when nobody had access to international things outside of official channels, we tended to only import the prestige things from Europe. Also Japan. Yes. So like we would get like Masterpiece Theater. We would get like the like very prestige-y sorts of things from Europe. Is there a difference between prestige and pretentious other than connotation? Prestige things are things that the wealthy elite thinks make them elite. Krellin, right now, I want to say yes to that. I imagine there's probably some kind of something that's prestigious, but not part of the wealthy elite, but I don't know what it is yet. Like, I imagine there's probably something, but I can't think of it. So for the moment, I'm just going to let that stand. Is there a difference between prestige and pretentious? Absolutely. There is a difference between prestige and pretentious because you can be pretentious and not have prestige, right? A thing can be pretentious and not have prestige, right? So pretentious tends to be you think you're better than you are, and you look down on other people, right? If you're pretentious, you think you're better than people. You think your thing is better than people. You think, and oftentimes part of the implication that you think you're better than you actually are. right? So a person can be pretentious, and oftentimes things that people, um, yeah, yeah, yes. So like I'm thinking about, I've never seen the film The Room by Tomei Wiseau, which apparently I need to. People call that film pretentious, but it has no prestige at all. Right? That is a film that people watch to make fun of and laugh at. I have never seen it, and I don't tend to make fun and laugh at things. But by my understanding is that people describe that film as pretentious, uh, but bad, right? And not and like it does not have any kind of cultural capital. If you've seen all the popular kids in the room, you have the experience. Huh. Hmm. Let me see what else. People in high school are often described like there are those people in high school that are often considered pretentious, but they have no prestige. Um, there are a lot of prestigious things that people don't think of as being pretentious. No, yes, there are a lot of prestigious things people don't think of as being pretentious at all. Um, oh, you're tearing me apart. Oh, hi, Mark. Actually, what's really interesting is that I find that pretentiousness is often used to um, invalidate people's prestige. Not always, right? It depends. It depends on the direction we're going. Like who's describing the thing as pretentious. There are two different ways to think about calling something pretentious. So one is that people in power will call something pretentious to say, no, you don't get prestige. People who have no prestige, who hate people who have prestige, may call something pretentious as a um, defense mechanism, right? Like, oh, look at that rich person's hat. That hat is so pretentious. But they say that because they, as people who don't have power, are irritated by those people who have money and power, and so the insult they hurl at them is pretentious as a way to like attack them. But the people in power are like this. It's interesting that you think I'm pretentious, but you are like a pleb, so I don't care what you have to say, right? So pretentiousness is an insult, whereas prestige is not, right? And it's not so it's not just connotation because different things they don't overlap 100%, is what I would say. Because it sounds like a lot of things you're describing as prestige are things, right? But that's probably because you're not powerful. But you don't have prestige, right? So that would be one of the differences. And also, I think about the fact that um, is classical music pretentious? I don't think it is. It's just classical music. Um, you know what I mean? Like it's just classical music. Is Let me think. Helen Mirren is in a British cop show that in the U.S. is played on PBS and gets Emmys all the time. Prime Suspect. Um, it's certainly prestigious in the United States. Is it pretentious? I don't think so. It's just a cop show, right? But so oftentimes pretentiousness is an insult that's given by someone to something or someone, but that may not necessarily correlate to whether or not the thing is prestigious or not. Um, Billy Joel quitting pop to make classical music is pretentious, though. Artists and fans can be pretentious, but can a piece of music be pretentious? Ooh. Are the people fangirling of a classic music pretentious? It depends on how they do it, right? If somebody fangirls about classical music because they just love classical music, then probably not. If they love classical music because they think they're better than you, then yes, right? Because pretentiousness has this sort of sense of sneering at other people or delusion in some kind of a way, right? So like those things are a little bit linked. Also, and actually, I think a piece of music can be thought of as being pretentious. And I have an example, and I will tell you in a second. Time of Gift says also the 1980s BBC got half of its financing from some of its detective adaptations, like Campy Mystery. Absolutely, absolutely, right. Yes. Uh, oh, Time of Gift. So they got half of its financing from the Boston TV station. That's really interesting. Um, the Avengers got like a huge amount of its funding from season 6 and 7 from the US because the US was buying it for huge amounts of money. And then the US canceled the Avengers in the United States and then they didn't have the money to afford like the color film and all that stuff, so they cancel the Avengers. I would definitely not want to have prestige. Although you may not have a choice. That's the thing about prestige. It's not prestige in some ways is like privilege. It's not your choice if you have it or not. Do you know what I mean? Like you can be like, I don't want any prestige. People are like, oh my God, Artie Snack doesn't want prestige. That is the most deep thing. And then there'll be like posters of Artie Snack everywhere. And people be like, Artie Snack is the most amazing. And then all of a sudden Artie Snack gets Oscars. You know what I mean? Like you whether or not you have prestige or not is not necessarily your choice. The same thing with privilege, right? Or oppression. Like those are not necessarily choices. Those are sort of larger forces making those decisions. And so you may not want to have prestige, but that doesn't mean that you won't get it. Do you know what I mean? Like now you might not get it, but you might, and it's not necessarily your choice. Also, sometimes when you try too hard, people think of you as being pretentious. Okay, when someone cares about the flower decoration because they cannot see the feet of the musicians, having privilege is like having seconds at grandma's house. You don't have a choice. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's right. When someone cares about the flower decorations because they cannot see the feet of the musicians, well, I don't know. It depends on the context, I suppose. Can music be pretentious? The answer is society can decide that a piece of music is pretentious, yes. Absolutely. And Krellin said Billy Joel quitting popular music to make classical music. And the reason why I paused on that is because Billy Joel's a really interesting example for a couple of reasons. I would feel bad for the world if there were posters. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't. I might feel great about it. So Billy Joel, okay, so we just left. Oh, but there are things in here we haven't, like, what is that? I thought we'd been through here. Oh. No, we read this. We read this. We went through this whole place. Two were forced on everyone by both my grannies, and yeah, there's gonna be red and blue posters with prestige. Yeah, and it's like and sometimes people who get prestige try to mess it up, and then they just get more of it, you know? Yeah, because it's social and societal. It's very random sometimes, like when you'll get it and when you won't. So the thing about Billy Joel doing classical music and that being pretentious, that is a complicated thing that is really interesting to me. And it's complicated. There's going to be red. It's complicated because of the following reasons. One, I think one of the reasons why people consider it pretentious, pardon me, is because he started in popular music. And therefore the people who gatekeep prestige are less likely to want to accept him, right? Because he's a popular musician and therefore he's already suspect. Also, what are we even doing? What's our button? Let's look at our map. We have a map and a journal, right? So here we are at a trash dump, which, have we, let's go to our journal for a moment. So this is the main quest which we're ignoring. We have the house. Enter the office of creative incubation. That's fine. We have side quests. We're gonna just look at our side quests. See, look at that. We have side quests here. We're gonna go in here and get our side quests taken care of because I feel like that's look, we have side quests everywhere. Look at this. We're gonna do a loop to this way. We're going this way. Is that correct? And then I've got so look. Yes, we're going this way. Can we? I don't even know if we can. People who make class music, fine. People who make first pop and then make classical music? Awful. What's the logic? Yeah, well, the logic is, no, that's about gatekeeping, right? I mean, and the thing about prestige is that prestige is also kind of, is a, you know, it's also gatekeepery, right? Also prestigious from the other way because he had, yes, absolutely, pop music fans are more prestigious fans. Except I don't think he actually, yes, right? So, Krellin, you're correct, right? And artist says, yeah, the more I think about it, the more I realize that the term pretentious is pretty loaded. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an insult. Like, nobody uses pretentious in a positive way at all. I like people to crawl down that way. So I'm going to try to do that after I just check the garbage spot, because maybe there's something in there. Yes. And maybe I can, like, yeah, we're gonna, I feel like we've been in here as well. I feel like we have. We can tell by seeing if we looted things. Because if we looted things, then we have. Which, yeah, I think we have. I think we just walked out of this place. Right. Yes. Okay. I know what we're doing. We want to try to see if we can... No, that's not the right button. This one? No. This one? No. This one? No. There are buttons, and we're gonna... This one? That's the one. Found it. Found the button. So the general public, the very idea of John Cage's silent piece of music is pretentious. Well, to the general public, almost anything that is high class is pretentious. Do you know what I mean? Like, the general public, people who are not... Well, people who are working class, middle class people tend to be into that kind of stuff because they want to be upper class, right? So middle class people might be into it. Working class people tend to dislike, especially populists. Like, populists think a lot of things are pretentious, right? So, like, for example, going to college at all. There's a phrase, don't get above your raising. That is, don't get above your raising. And that phrase is one that you use to attack anyone who does anything that might make you think they think they're better than you, right? So if they go to college, if they get an expense, like, there are a lot of things that will get somebody labeled as pretentious in certain circles. Doesn't mean those things are pretentious, but that's also because, again, it's an insult that's meant to sort of deal with various anxieties, right? Class anxieties. What did you say here? Let me see. Yeah, and Krellin, this is correct, right? That's the thing about Billy Joel. He was labeled pretentious by his old pop fans because he was like, oh, classical music's better than pop, which feels super pretentious. But then he also was labeled pretentious by the classical music fans. So, like, who do you think you are, thinking you can be a... So, like, it didn't work out well for him at all. I think one of the only people that it might have worked out well for I'm trying to think of popular music people who crossed over to classical music and were not looked down on for it, and my first thought was Paul McCartney, but I think that people still think of his stuff as pretentious as well, actually. Yeah. You can't abandon fans. That's not how it works. No, you can't abandon fans, but fans can feel abandoned. Right? And that's the funny thing, right, PH? You know, oh, you're playing Horizon Zero Dawn? Oh, yay! And remember, you know, PH, how people say, your feelings are valid, all of your feelings, everybody's feelings are valid, all feelings are valid. If you feel it, it's valid. That's the thing that you see on the internet all the time on Twitter. Your feelings are valid. So if you go by that model, your feelings are valid no matter what they are at all, no matter what, your feelings are always valid. Fans will feel abandoned. And they'll say, that person abandoned me. And if they feel it, and we believe that everyone's feelings are always valid all the time, then yes, a person can abandon their fans. Now, I don't believe that everybody's feelings are valid all the time. That is not actually what I think, but that is, it is a thing to note that people do operate on this sort of idea. I feel like there's gotta be a way for me to get over here. Maybe I have to go around the other way. Let's try going around the other way. Let's try that. So, if your feelings are valid, fans feel abandoned by their stars all the time for any reason, right? Like, did your favorite singer get more fans? Then they abandoned you, right? So, like, I will note that people have feelings, and those feelings often involve feeling abandoned. Who would the people be? The ones who always into posting about classic, or the ones who see an artist who does something they cannot relate to because it's capital different S? Yeah. Silent music. Yeah, Mr. Monkey. Silent music. I mean, I think the piece was. See, like I always thought of it as. See, I don't think of John Cage's 433 as pretentious. I think it was rebellious, right? But that's about perspective, right? Now that I think about it, the other way is more how I think pretentious is used. People that start low and try to go high are pretentious because they pretend they have privilege. Yeah. Yes, I tend to think that tends to be how it goes more. I think so. And I think it tends to go that way more because there are more people who will attack that, right? If you go low, if you start low and go high, people who are high will attack you for being pretentious, and people who are low will attack you for being pretentious. But if you start high and are high, people who are high will not attack you. People who are low may or may not attack you. They may not attack you because they may want to try to get that prestige and then may like it, right? So I think that crossing class from low to high is more likely to get you called pretentious. And when I think about people who are called pretentious, it's very often people who go low to high. And I think about how if somebody is like wealthy and they love Shakespeare, people are not going to call them pretentious. They're going to think, oh yeah, that's probably just part of like what you do. But if you are poor and you like Shakespeare, people will call you pretentious, right? So there's a lot of like class gatekeeping in that term in different ways, or defense mechanisms. Yeah, if there's yeah. Oh, do you? Oh, I'm not talking about you, Ice Buddy. Hey, the Wandering In. How are you? How are you? I'm a little bit behind on my chats. I'm just catching up right now. Well, that sounds like someone who's heavily into classism. Well, pretentious is, I think, connected to classism, 100%. Billy Joel got to ditch what sounds like an awful fan base and try his hand at something new, so hooray for him. Yeah, right. So, yeah, people think Paul's pretentious, yeah, especially the Beatles themselves. From watching Get Back, that seems to be why they broke up. Oh, I think they broke up for a lot of reasons, but also there are people who think that that John Lennon was pretentious, right? Because he was dating Yoko Ono and she was like a performance artist, so therefore he's pretentious. So people, and then actually people, oh yeah, and John was the one who said that the Beatles are bigger than Jesus, which I think technically was true at the time, but people thought that was pretty pretentious. So like there's like a, you know what I mean? Like there's, and I will know if you like someone, you're less likely to call them pretentious than if you don't like them, right? Because pretentious is an insult. What about George Harrison? Was he considered pretentious? Now that's really interesting, Krellin, because I think you could call him pretentious, but I don't think that generally speaking, he was called pretentious as often because he was not the face of the band. Now he said a lot of things you're like, whoa, right? But I think people tend to think of him as deep, right? And that's another thing about pretentiousness. People, there's a connection between pretentiousness and being shallow, i.e., not being as deep as you think you are. Right? I think that's one of the things that's about pretentiousness, is that if you're pretentious, you're not as deep as you think you are. People tend to think of George Harrison as deep, whether he is or not. The thing about Paul McCartney is that Paul McCartney's songs tended to be sweeter and a bit more romantic than John Lennon's songs, which should be a little bit harder, and a bit more. It's like, this is not fair, and it's not necessarily true, actually, but this is the perception. People's perception is that Paul is pop and John is rock. People think that pop is shallow and rock is deep if you're in this space, and so therefore it is more likely that people will call Paul pretentious than John. But if you don't like popular music at all, the difference between John and Paul is not going to be important to you, and both of them will be pretentious, right? So, or if you like rock and you don't like performance art, then you might call John pretentious for that, for like the White Album, basically, right? Because with the White Album, he started doing some kind of real like art noise, sort of avant-garde sort of sound art. And if you were really into Chuck Berry and you thought that sound art is not what you should be doing, then you would call John pretentious, right? So that will depend on a little bit of like where you're at with the Beatles. Um, I would say people's feelings are valid to themselves, but that doesn't mean they're accurate or true, says Artie Snack. Yeah, you can feel things. I would say you can feel stuff. That doesn't mean it's true, though, right? Um, I also think, gosh, I want to get myself caught up on chat because there's so much interesting stuff going on here. I'm gonna do it. Don't worry, we'll get back to the video game sooner or later. What's interesting to me is there's a thing that I was thinking about in terms of valid, and one of the things I want to say about the term valid that I think is interesting to think about is that valid. I think we should think about valid as a process of validation, right? Things are often valid because they're validated, right? Like if you have like if I come to you with uh, an old painting and I say this is a Toulouse-Lautrec, I'm gonna have to get that validated by somebody before people will think of this as a valid Toulouse-Lautrec. So valid, we at this moment on the internet, we like to think of valid as being internal, like, oh, your feelings are valid because you feel them, except that that's not exactly what people are wanting. When people say this is my feeling, it's valid. When somebody says, hey, if you have green hair, you're valid, what they're doing is validating, right? If I feel this thing and I say, hey, this thing is valid, what I'm saying is I want you to validate my thing. I want you to agree with me that my thing is valid. That valid is not like an internal thing that stays inside and doesn't go anywhere. It is a kind of a communication. People want those things. If I say to you, I'm angry and my feelings are valid, what I want you to say is, yes, I validate your anger. And if somebody says, yeah, but your anger is not actually justified at all, people will get mad. They're like, you're not validating me, because the valid people don't actually, they don't mean it internally. They actually want they want other people to validate those feelings, right? So when somebody says, you have been ignoring me, I'm feeling ignored by you. And I could say, yeah, but I've not been ignoring you. I've spoken to you 5 times today. And they're like, you're not validating my feelings. And I was like, yeah, but I spoke to you 5 times today. I don't like, you know what I mean? So there's a trickiness where people want to sort of frame the word valid as if it's only about internal things and has nothing to do with other people. But that's actually not how it's operating. People want you to validate their feelings. And then what do you do when their feeling is not true, right? Like, and also sometimes people's feelings are not just their feelings. They're like you're ignoring me is not, I mean, I'm feeling ignored by you is nice, but like, I'm not ignoring you, right? So there's a way in which all of a sudden it's stuff, yeah, anyway. If a musician's style changes, the fan should embrace it. Try to feel why the style might have changed, says Missile Monkey. The music style may change, but the musician themselves may not have changed at all. On the other hand, Missile Monkey, if you only like one style of music and that musician no longer does that style of music, then you may not want to listen to it, which I think is fine. You can still listen to their old stuff, right? Wizard Style says, pretentious is also specifically used to describe the lifestyles of rich people that weren't born rich. Absolutely. It's gatekeeping at a societal level. Absolutely. 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 And thank you for saying that, Wizard Style, because that was the thing I was going to say. Like, if you look at a lot of those reality shows, like The Real Housewives of XYZ, most of those people who are the Real Housewives were not born rich. They're new money, and people make fun of those people for being pretentious all the time, right? Like those people who got their money because somebody's a celebrity or whatever. People call them pretentious all the time, and they do it because it's a form of gatekeeping, right? That then the working classes also engage in, right? So it becomes like that the working class engages in it is top down, right? That the top sort of encourages that, right? So basically the message is, if you are working class, you should stay working class, right? Because that's the only way to be real, right? Which serves who? That serves your 1%er overlords, right? Yeah. Ice Bunny says, I worked my ass off to get my BA, and I have some people who did not take the chance I took to get where I am. The elderly cow asked me if I'm finished studying, and I said to her that I will never stop, and asked her what she thinks the exams prepare us for. But she's also one of the Karens that thinks she's not getting enough handouts. So I said to her, Dane study in Germany for free too. So you can get the it evens out, and then the mouth was shut. I also feel uncomfortable with using Karen as an insult because it feels particularly gendered in a way that because we don't talk about men this way. Do you know what I mean? We don't really have an equivalent, a masculine equivalent of Karen, and that makes me feel uncomfortable. Just want to say that. Um, for a while in the late 70s, 80s, yes, George Harrison was thought pretentious. Yeah. The Traveling Wilburys helping him back to drum. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was a moment he was, right? Yeah. Warner's like, I see that. Catch up anyway. I'm on my way. If you start low, you will always be low. That's BS. Yeah. Automod, me love. I would say that that is more provocative than pretentious, the Jesus comment, says Artie Snack. I think so too, right? I understood what John Lennon was saying when he said that the Beatles were bigger than Jesus. He was not saying that they were God or anything like that. What they were saying was they are selling so many records, and they're like that more people are seeing them than are exceptionally devout. And he's saying this, he's British, which is less religious in the United States. Most European countries are less religious in the United States. And in that context, it's 100% true, right? Like, it's 100% true that in that time period, the height of Beatlemania, more people in the UK were like super invested in the Beatles than they were in Jesus. And that upset people, but I don't think he was saying we are better than Jesus, or like, I think he was making a comment on hysteria and popular culture. You know what I mean? Like, but people took that as pretentiousness, but I don't think that's what he was doing. People are fans because they like the style. Yeah. I'll buy that, says Chromatic. No games, delay chat. There are games in there. I never said automatically. I just said for the community. So yeah. We are here for you at the game. Hey, but I want to play the game. I want to finish this game. In my music, for music's sake, is still music. If a fan dislikes the new direction the artist is taking, they can feel free to go away. Easy choice. No one's abandoned. Yeah, PH is like, no one's abandoned. I get that, but they're going to feel abandoned, right? Especially because you have to think about this. A number of people make parasocial attachments to their musicians when they're in high school or middle school, right? So it's part of their identity formation. They're like, I love this band that nobody else knows, and this is like who I am. Who I am is a fan of this band, and this band, I know this band so well, and like they're my best friend. And like I have no other friends. It's just me and this band. And then that band becomes really popular, and all sorts of other people start listening to the band, including people who've been mean to you. And it feels like your band is cheating on you and is now friends with your bullies, and now you hate your band and you break up with them. You feel like your band left you and is cheating on you with your bullies. And like look, people are 14 sometimes, right? And or they're still 14 in their mind. And if you have an intense parasocial relationship with your band, with your musician, that has become part of your identity formation, when that band or musician changes style and starts getting new fans, and also the thing about that parasocial relationship with bands especially is that very often you enter, not just bands, right? You enter into a parasocial relationship with the fans of that band as well, right? Yeah, I'm a Kiss fan, right? And like, oh, you're a Kiss fan? I'm a Kiss fan. That means that we, like, oh, you love Rush? I love Rush. And then somehow that things that makes you feel like you're in a relationship with each other, and that you're in some kind of a special community. And then when other people who are not in that little club of yours start showing up, especially if those people have more social power than you, or if they were mean to you or bullied you, it feels like your band, not for all people, but a lot of people feel like their band left them for these popular people. Like, I've never been popular. All those popular kids get everything that they didn't get my band, because my band, they didn't like my band. They were not in my band. My band wasn't talking to them. My band wasn't singing for them. They were singing for me and my feelings. They understood my pain. And now all those people are listening to my band, which means my band is singing to them, which means they're no longer singing to me, because me and them are not the same. We're not in the same community together. My band abandoned me. And that is a feeling that is a very common feeling with a lot of people. I don't think, generally speaking, that's what a band is thinking. But again, sometimes bands think that, or their managers think that, but oftentimes that's not what they're thinking. Let's see. Some people think valid means justified. That is true, Krellin. That is true. It's not the same. Your feelings are valid. Your rationale behind them is very much not. Justified. Volpez! An ancient? Volpez. Justified. And they're ancient. And they like to roam the land. What time is love? Love, love, love. 90s Euro dance. Yeah, some people use valid to try to manipulate others and justify them. Absolutely, Artist Snack. Absolutely. Chad is, I understand, the male equivalent to Missile Monkey. Although, the problem with Chad is that Chad comes from a different space, right? Chad is really the male equivalent of Becky. Chad comes out of the incel community, right? So Chads and Beckys are part of the incel space where like Beckys are that hot woman who won't have sex with you, and Chads are the hot dudes that have sex with all the Beckys. So like Chad and Becky are the ones who are sort of equivalent. There really isn't a male equivalent of Karen, of like, yeah. Chad's more related to Becky than it is to Karen. Yes, the person is woman, but the question is, why do we target women for hatred in ways we don't target men? And why has it become, especially white women, at this moment, in the last 4 years, 4, 5, 6 years, with the rise of the term Karen within broader society, we are using white women as the cause, as this symbol of racism, of basically everything that is bad, when we don't talk about white men that way, right? We don't talk about, so there's a way in which we are, I would say we're being distracted by the patriarchy, the white supremacist patriarchy. They're encouraging us to attack women instead, right? So instead of attacking the people who are holding us all down, because remember, women are still women under the patriarchy, right? They're still oppressed. So we are being encouraged to use the same kind of misogynistic tools to attack women, thinking that we're being progressive, but we're not. We're just being misogynistic, right? So in the sort of glee, and the thing is, you can see it happening because right now I'm seeing a bunch of really sexist dude comedians attacking women for being a Karens as if that's progressive. They're like, you know who's the worst? White women, am I right? There's this guy on Saturday Night Live. He was like, did this whole thing about how like white women are thus the worst. They're so awful. Karen this, Karen that, and all this and all that. And I was like, dude, right? Anyway, so I just want us to be sort of mindful about how often we attack women. That's all. How we are being encouraged to do that. So the Beatles stand on each other's shoulders. They're over 4 times bigger than Jesus. That's true. If they do, it's true. Technically taller, but yeah. But still shorter than the Holy Ghost. That's true. Yeah. Yes, and Artie's notes the band becomes your identity. So when that band changes without your consent, which again is weird because it's a parasocial relationship, right? Then people get all upset. I'm looking forward to my niece fangirling for the first time. You like Blue M&Ms? I like Blue M&Ms, says the Wondering. Miss Monkey says, by that rationale, bands cannot ever get new fans without losing their old fans, which is folly at its core. Yeah, Miss Monkey, except that I will also note it depends on the band. If the band is a pop band, it's fine, right? Because they're expected to be popular. But if your band is thought of as being underground or indie, or in some kind of a way, people who think of themselves as not being in the center identify them with them, they get really mad if people who are in the center start like, yeah, people get really mad about it. Vulpus, Rush, Trooper, did you, the Rush promotion? Yes, I did. It was great. I played it all the time. People are tweens. Tweens are people. Tweens are people, and some people never leave that mindset. You make me think of the hubbub when Dylan went electric. Yeah, when Dylan went electric, a lot of people got really mad. They felt abandoned. They felt betrayed. They felt like, especially when, only if they have to change their style to get those fans. Although sometimes if they don't change their style, but they get popular fans, people will still perceive it as the same thing. That gapey gun-toting white couple was called Ken and Karen. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, but we don't talk about Kens as much. Yeah. Ken and Karen. Artie says, so when Trooper becomes a massive streamer and hundreds of thousands are watching him, someone might feel betrayed. The new Lord talks right to them. Yes, absolutely, Artie Snack. Are you kidding? 100%. 100%. If I became as big as Ninja or whatever, there will be people who think that I abandoned them. Even if it wasn't my fault first off, because here's the thing. Here we are hanging out, right? Just like being in the general vicinity of stuff, right? And how you get popular on Twitch is sometimes super random, like really random. And by popular, I mean perceived of as popular, I suppose is the best way to put it. I don't know. Twitch popularity is weird. Like, some random thing could happen, something really weird. All it would take is like a retweet from somebody random, right? And then all of a sudden, my viewership could triple or quadruple, and I could go from like 30 on average to like 130 on average. And then I get partner. Now, that 130 is like 100 more people, right? Which is like I don't know, what, like a 40% increase, something like that? And that's going to be a lot of people who've not been here before, who've not been here for the last 33 months or whatever. And they're going to be new people who don't know what was happening 2 years ago. And they'll be there. And I'm a polite person. I'm going to talk to everybody. And some people will be like, oh, you're talking to these new people, not me. That's terrible because, who are those people? Like, I don't know them. And they're not, like, people might feel abandoned. That doesn't mean that I am abandoning them, but people might feel like it. That's how these things work. I would call a dude Karen. So Wizard Styles, it came from including white women in the discussion about racism, yep, when they had often been given a pass, and the assumption was conservative husband, liberal wife. And that's important, yes, especially since a lot of right-wing networks have been targeting female demographics as they had little access to in the past. But it quickly turned into piling on women, yeah. Absolutely, Wizard Styles, absolutely. But the other thing too, and this is, I think, important, right, to think about this, when Trump was elected, everybody talked about the percentage of white women who voted for Trump. They're like, do you know it was like, 59% or 62%, like da-da-da-da, right? Whatever. They went on and on about like how white women gave the election to Trump. But you know who voted for Trump in much larger numbers than white women? White men. Did we talk about white men voting for Trump? No, we talked about white women, right? So there's a way in which focusing on white women, including liberal women, right? Because now Karen is not being used against conservative or racist white women. It's being used against white women just in general, and very often against liberal white women, because we like to attack women, right? It's a way to disguise talking about men, right? And I think a really good example of that would be, well, hold on a second. So let me look at this. So Krellin says, the thing about the Karen thing, Tripper, is that they are oppressors, not oppressed. They're using their position as protected women within the white power structure to advance and preserve that power structure. But that's not true. As women, they are oppressed. Women are oppressed under patriarchy. They have white privilege, but they have gender oppression. White women have gender oppression. They are still oppressed under the patriarchy. As white women, they have white privilege, right? They have that power, but they also have, they're also oppressed. I mean, it was legal to rape your wife until the 1970s. Doesn't matter if you were white or not. If you were a white woman, you still could be raped by your husband if you were married, because it was just legal to do that. Women, if you are a white woman, you live in Texas, you're not gonna be able to get an abortion. You know what I mean? A poor white woman in Texas is not getting an abortion. We still deal with a rape culture. We still with women. White women get paid more than black women, but white women still get paid less than white men. White women get paid more than black men, but white women don't get paid the same as white men, right? So like, white women are still oppressed based on gender. They are still within an oppressed class. Poor white women are still oppressed based on class, right? So to sort of erase the oppression that white women feel by only focusing on the privilege they get for race is what the power structure wants, right? The power structure wants to divide us and to divide us and conquer us. They want us to fight each other rather than to recognize that that we all have different levels of oppression over a larger structure. And I think one of the best examples I have of this is when Prop 8 passed, I think it was. 207, 208. It was a California proposition that was anti-gay marriage. It was like it was an amendment that said that because Gavin Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco, and he just basically said, I'm going to start doing gay weddings. We're doing gay marriages in San Francisco. And so then a proposition was passed, was introduced to make gay marriage specifically illegal in the state of California. And that proposition passed. And what people said was, you know why that proposition passed? Because black people are homophobic. Because like a large number of Prop 8, thank you, Rissa, Prop 8. 207, 208 was like the anti-immigration bill, I think, proposition, I think it was. They're like, well, you know why that passed? Black people. It's black people, because black people are all homophobic. You know how black people are. They're super homophobic. And so they voted for it in large numbers, and so that's why it passed. But like black people are like only 8% of the population in California, right? That they're not the reason why Prop 8 passed, but they were blamed for it. And they were sort of held up as the bastion of homophobia in order to divert from, well, the larger forces that were pushing that, right? So there's a way in which we are encouraged to fight amongst ourselves so that we don't have solidarity, we don't have allyship, right? And it's a lack of intersectional thinking. That's, like intersectionality is very, very difficult to do. And, it's really easy to sort of it's really hard to think intersectionally because thinking intersectionally involves like a lot of nuance. So let's see. Trooper will simply reply to Infield Chapman says, but as usual, but eventually fought sober fine. He's responded to something 3 hours ago. Hamburger. Rissa says, yeah, he has about an hour for Lucky before grocery delivery. See. I want to get some game in. Trooper, if you became as big as Ninja, you'd never stop streaming and you'd die with sleep deprivation in a week. That's probably true, actually. Screw popular, go for prestige. Oh. Sorry. PH just said that thing. PH just said, screw popular, go for prestige. Now the question, okay. So the question is, what does it look like to try to go for prestige in Twitch? I know what it looks like, by the way. What it looks like is just try to be seen, because Twitch does not have as much prestige as what, right? So you've got to think, what has more prestige than what are you reaching for? Twitch does not have prestige because it's too associated with video games. So the people who are trying to get prestige are also trying to get popularity, by the way, because they think that that prestige will get them popularity with different people, with more money, perhaps. It's going for television. Like, if you are trying to make if you're like, oh, I'm not really doing an RPG or whatever Twitch, I'm really doing it's like prestige TV is what I'm doing. That is the equivalent. Now, is that going to be successful? I doubt it, because I don't think people who watch prestige TV en masse, like the worst rated show that I could find on TV, 2 weeks ago, got 8 million viewers. Nobody on Twitch gets 8 million viewers. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just don't think it's possible. So there is a brand new Rush machine coming out. Ooh, nice. Now, I'm not sure if I use the right word, because she's one of those very nosy people. You want to say, use your brain and think critically about what the populace tell you. The thing about I'm waiting for that moment when one of Trooper's students starts watching this side of him, which I'm sure it has. And somehow entire mobs of the students start watching. We lose him to his students. Then we'll see who's a follower and who's a peer. It's interesting because I don't think my students, they don't want to watch me. I've got a couple, right? I got a couple. Deep down, we're not just followers, we're his peers. Is this where we talk about losing only your chains? There should be no gender difference in earning ability, right? But there is, because sexism. Is that get paid, not mostly women get into fields that are paying bad if it is both gender? See, I mean, people will say that, like, oh, yeah, women just get into bad paying fields, except that those fields were often really well paying before women became the majority in them. Yeah, and Carl notes women get paid between 5 to 10% less even when you balance for similar positions and experience. Yeah. It passed because Utah sent tons of money in the message. Yeah, Utah sent tons of money. The Mormon church spent so much money on Prop 8, but that's not what we talk about, right? It's deflection at its best, or worst, absolutely. Volnar's Workshop. Trooper! I am so far away, I know. Trooper says, I just got to say, Trooper, that excusing this so-called Karens feels a little bit like the same dividing against poor white men who, in that explanation, are higher on the poll. But poor white men still have class oppression, right? I think it's also still a problem to say, oh, the reason, whose fault it is that Trump is elected? Poor white men. Poor white men. You know who votes for Trump a whole lot? Rich white men, as a matter of fact. And a lot of the poorest white men also didn't vote for him, right? So I think that it's important to recognize that poor white men also have class oppression. And that is part of intersectional thinking, is recognizing that poor white men still have class oppression. And oh, there's a big monster here. Did you notice that? Those are monsters. I don't know if you noticed that there are big monsters there, but there are, and they're just sleeping. And I'm hungry. Not me, but my person is hungry because I have this food addiction where I have to apparently eat food. I don't even know what that's all about. So let's eat food. Energizing ointment. Well, that's cool. But let's have this Borstwurst. Let's eat it. We're gonna eat this Borstwurst. And when people spend all their time attacking poor white men, I get irritated because that's that same kind of deflection where they really should be talking about the people who are benefiting from Trump's, situation. Woo, hi. Get away from me. All right, here we go. Oh, hi. Reload. You take a long time to die. Hey, use your special powers. Because you have them, right? Use your special power too. Kill that thing, because lots of special powers.
Someone else will clean this up, right?
Also, I don't think I'm doing well, and I think there's a button that will help me with that. That's not it. Is it this one? Yes, that's the one. That's the button. I found it. I found the button. We didn't die. By the way, I just would like to note that we didn't die, and I'm very proud of us for not being dead, because those things are toxic, which Britney Spears told me about. Yeah, so I get very irritated when people sort of want to sort of blame everything on the working class white man when oh, I have a detail about that you might find interesting, actually. Speaking of which, I have a thing that I wanted to do. It's about the working class white man as the symbol of racism and all of that. Hold on. And it was that in the 1970s, it's around the time of Archie Bunker's place, the whole sort of thing was that it's the white ethnic people who are the most racist and who want to fight immigration the most. And that wasn't true at all, actually. When they did polls, let's repair all of our equipped things. When they did polls, the people who were least in favor of integration were not poor white working class and white ethnic people. It was rich white people, right? But the face of the anti-segregationist bigot was Archie Bunker, the white working class person, right? And that is a form of deflection, right? It's a form of deflection to sort of keep away from thinking about the larger power structures who, yeah, which is not to say that people who are poor can't be racist. Of course they can. Or people who are of color can't be homophobic. Of course they can. All of those things can happen. Those are all things that are absolutely possible. But it's about the ways in which we get encouraged to spend our time taking out our frustrations on people who are oppressed but along a different vector than we are on our collective oppressors, is what I would say. Yes. That is what I'd say about that. All right, let me get myself caught up. See, I shot something, so, catching up. men are treated the same bad pay as women. But the thing is, Ice Bunny, there are so here's the thing. So in the beginning, there weren't a lot of women who were teachers, and all teachers got paid well. And the women got into teaching, and women do not get tenure as university professors as often men do, and university professors still get paid really well. Now there are lots and lots and lots of women who teach K through 5, especially elementary school. Very few men teach in elementary school, and elementary school now gets paid real poorly. If you are a man and you are in elementary school, you also get paid poorly, but you probably get paid more than women. But the more women come into a field, the more they drop the pay down, is what happened. So they were like being a secretary was quite prestigious when it was only men, and it got paid well. And then women started becoming secretaries, and then it started getting paid less well. So it's not like women only enter in fields that get paid poorly. It's that if a field is seen as a woman-predominated field, they don't pay them as well, you know? Poor isn't a protected class legally. It is not a protected class legally, but when you were thinking about privilege and oppression, social class, we're not talking about the law. We're not going by legal definitions. We're going by power and privilege, right? People who are poor, they may not be a protected class, but they have class oppression, right? Oppression is not a legal term. It's a social term. We're not going to let those sleeping monsters lie. Sadly, I think we will reach full automation and the dissolving of labor for sustainability before we reach any equitable labor conversation. Followers, my worry is that we will reach full automation and we'll just leave a whole bunch of people poor and destitute. That's my concern, because some people have $3 trillion and don't want to share. You know, that is my worry. Notice the game would have to be played to notice any monsters. Miss Monkey, unpopular opinion, we will never completely get rid of oppression because someone will always feel oppressed, even if they don't. But feeling oppressed and being oppressed are not the same thing. This is why I'm not one of those all of your feelings are valid kind of people. Just because you feel oppressed doesn't mean you are oppressed, right? So there are, for example, there was an article, I think Krellin must have read it as well, maybe he didn't, about how rich people are feeling oppressed right now because it's really hard for them because people don't like them. And the fact that people don't like them is very oppressive to them. It makes them feel very oppressed. Rich people are not oppressed. Poor people have no power over rich people. And if some poor person doesn't like a rich person, that does not make that rich person oppressed. They can feel oppressed all they want, but they are not oppressed, right? So feeling oppressed does not mean that you are oppressed, is all I will say. That is all I will say. And Bar Garwin, if full automation was feasible, then they would have gone full steam during the pandemic and research worker movements. I imagine that people are cheaper than automation in some ways, right? Chromatic. So basically the actual people that stormed the Congress are being sacrificed to hide the wealthy criminal class. Absolutely. And those people that stormed the Congress are a problem, of course, right? But they didn't get that idea by themselves. The president told them to do it, right? And who's going to go to jail? Those people who stormed the Capitol, not the former president. You know, like there are a bunch of people in Congress who were coordinating and encouraging, and like Fox News, there was a bunch of people there were a bunch of people who were like the instigators and coordinators, and none of them are going to go to jail, right? And we're not even going to talk about them. We're going to talk about like dude with like the face paint, and that's frustrating. We've got 3.5 million fewer jobs in the U.S., and they did automate a lot of them. We will never get full automation until machines can maintain themselves. Honestly, we need to abolish the idea that people need to work to eat, unless you have generational wealth. Not teacher trooper educators, not teacher trooper educators. We do not have the same distinctions you have in the in Europe, right? You have other things that we don't have. You have other positions that are not in the United States. But I will say this. Yeah, Donald says the people who stormed the Capitol were mostly not poor. They were upper middle class. Yeah, yes. Ooh, you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of the Boston Tea Party, where people who actually had quite a bit of privilege dressed up like Native Americans to throw tea in the harbor, which again is a kind of reminds me actually of a number of kind of weird people sort of pretending to be working class in certain ways. Yeah. They want $15 an hour, but I can't get ketchup packets. Did you ask for ketchup packets? Well, no. Rissa says, caught up. And in the US, at least, there's a very strong message that people should not talk about their salary with their coworkers, colleagues. Absolutely. So you could be making significantly less than someone who started after you or with less experience and not know it. Absolutely. I lost the best job I've ever had because I told my coworkers my salary and got them talking about their relative pays, which is legal. You know what I mean? Like, and that's messed up, Carlin. Chromatic says, it's like my conservative's brother saying he was oppressed in Hawaii because he was a white person, a majority of indigenous. Yeah, right? That's, yeah. I was sort of surprised by that, Carlin, but I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's messed up. Educators work pre-K, after-school programs, or special needs schools as assistants to a student or help for the class teacher, educator, and teacher. Yeah, we don't have that distinction in the U.S. In Europe, y'all do things differently. Like, you have a lot of specialized training for a lot of things that we don't, and that training also locks you into things that don't. Like, we have things like student teachers and teaching assistants, but they are often on their way to becoming teachers. That's usually like that's like not usually a thing you do only. I hate all the metrics are just more or less jobs and more or less unemployment, where they completely neglect the factor of many people are dead. There are less people alive to apply for unemployment. Of course it's down. Well, that's true. That's true. There are less people alive and healthy enough to work, so of course there are less jobs. Oh. So, look, I just want to say for the record, we actually did something. Sort of. A little bit. We did a thing. Did I loot this? I did not. How? Y'all, you almost distracted, not me, I almost distracted myself. I'm not going to blame you all for this. I'm blaming myself for this 100%. I almost distracted myself from looting all of the things, which would have been a crime, as I feel like you all know, because if I'm not looting things, I don't know what's happening. But they're also dead, so they don't need them. It's not like they need these things. All right, so we have got, we're going this way. We're going this way. See what we can find. There's also less people seeking work. That's true. I guess it's the whole all teachers are educators, but not all educators are teachers. You know, oh, let's go this way. See what we can get. Labor participation is at something at a 40-year low. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what
Researchers sure know
what
how
that
to
means.
Let's grab that comic and get.
Hey, this is The Outer Worlds. It's an RPG by Obsidian. And Obsidian is a company I really like. They, oh, and they're the people who did, they were, before they were Black Isle Entertainment, who did, things that people love. Planescape Torment, right? Didn't they do that? They did Planescape, right? Yes. Perhaps. Space, sort of old west style kind of space game, space western sort of, dystopian. Sort of kind of reminds me a little bit of BioShock actually. What's the percentage of unemployment? No flat numbers that don't account for population change. Labor percentage, yeah. I feel like I've watched someone play this before. Oh, probably. Unemployment only counts people submitting claims to UI. I've never presented it in that way. It's always, there are less. Yeah, but I think, yeah, but Carl is talking about participation, labor participation, which is not the same thing as unemployment. Unemployment stats, yes, but labor participation is a different stat. There's also people reevaluating their work life and switching jobs or trying to. I've seen a lot of people on my current team leaving for other opportunities, or in one case, to become a stay-at-home dad. Yeah. Did this game start with you? Yes. No. This game starts with you being, well, I mean, you do eventually crash on a planet, but it starts with you being woken up from cryostasis by a wild scientist. Aren't all video games dystopian? Nah. I don't think Stardew Valley is dystopian, right? That's like a nice farming sim. I had more education training on my schedule than someone training for elementary teacher. Yeah, we don't actually have the job that you had is not a job in the United States that you get training for. So it's that job that you have does not exist in the way that it exists in Europe, because Europe is has a different system. It has an apprenticeship system that we don't do in the same way. Missile Monkey says, potentially good news for me, career-wise. I had a customer tell me that she might have a radio job available in a few months. She's going to get me the information. Oh, that is awesome. Oh, Stardew Valley is a corporate dystopia? So you're over... Yeah, so look, what I'm trying to tell you is that the entire European system is not the way we do it here at all. That is not how it works here. Give me 1 second. Let me tell you about my ex. Also, I feel like I've played non-dystopian video games. I'll have to think about it. But that will distract me. The exhilarating adventures of Archibald Excelsior, Ace Exterminator, and the Colossus Beneath Tartarus, issue 404. A comic from the cult classic Ace Exterminator series, tragically canceled after its brief 4-issue run. Scribbled in felt tip on the comic's spine is the word enter. Ooh. After narrowly escaping the clutches of nefarious Agent Buff Hardman, wounded hero Archibald Excelsior has a heart in turmoil, a broken PET, and no time to rest, because an ancient colossus slumbering beneath the crust of the prison planet Tartarus arises and hungers for the flesh of thousands. As the Colossus lays waste to the maximum security penitentiary, Excelsior's nemesis, Hardman, returns to hunt him. Now, Excelsior must face down 2 devilish foes at once as lava encroaches on all sides. Excelsior's odds look grim, until a chance lightning strike ignites the pet and gives the Ace Exterminator a fighting chance. Will our mustachioed hero slay the giant and finally mend his broken heart? I hope so. Because, you know, he should have a mended heart. Look, I'm going to explain something about how things are different, at least in Germany, than they are in the United States. Although I imagine things might be changing in Germany as well. That's because just very different systems. It seems like most capitalistic games are dystopian, but it's not an RPG. So, Star Trek games, yeah. Who says that your dreams can't fall into your lap? Working in TV or radio is one of my dreams. Oh, nice. Nice, Missile. Thanks, Max. You know, I try to listen to a lot of radio. Listen to a lot of that. You know it rubs off. I would venture that there are games like Age of Empires that aren't dystopian so much as historically and conflict-based. Yeah, I mean, I would say that Mass Effect does not start off as dystopian, right? Because it's like age of exploration and humans, you know, becoming a thing. They're bad guys, but I wouldn't say that Mass Effect is dystopian. Right? Because you don't have like, yeah, I don't think Mass Effect is dystopian. One thing about the European system, though, since 1980 or so, middle-tier academic staff has largely been pushed into more precarious short-term, yeah. I would link that to neoliberal doctrine more than patriarchy, yeah. But it's certainly true that there are a lot more women among those people than professors. Yeah, there are things that happened with patriarchy that in Germany that I can say is certainly about patriarchy. Colonialism is dystopian, you're just seeing it from the other side. Mm-hmm. Trooper's going to get used to hoarding all the loot again, and they're also self-ruinate. Mass Effect doesn't start dystopian, but my opinion, it develops into such. Well, the thing is, I wonder if it's dystopian or catastrophe, right? Because dystopian tends to be like an earthquake happening isn't a dystopia, right? A serial killer is not dystopia. Like dystopia is a much, much larger, there being villains isn't a dystopia. Dystopia is like a larger, like oppressive, hopeless, grim structure that, although I suppose you could make the case actually that Mass Effect, once you realize that this is part of a larger cycle, you could maybe call that dystopian, maybe. Yeah, right? Dystopia is the system. Yeah. Right, you can't just solve a dystopia by removing one person. Yes, and also the thing about dystopia, I think this is also important about dystopia, having a terrible system, but having hope that you can overcome it would not be dystopia, right? I think that one of the things about dystopia is that you can't get out of it, right? If you're in a system where like, oh, the system's bad, but then like the heroic individual can go and destroy the dystopia and win, then I don't think that's a dystopia. Do you know what I mean? Seems like seems like in any dystopian work, the protagonist is considered a criminal by society as well. That's also true, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's also, yeah. Yes, 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 yes. There was something I wanted to tell you, though. Yes, German education system. I will say this in a second, but let me read this. Bertie Sharp's datapad. Hi, Dr. Kim. Hope everything's all right down there in the Kim Lab waste processing ravine. I know it gets a little smelly, what with the garbage and toxic goo pits and all, so I just want to make sure you're A-okay. With Virgil's blessing, I've prepared a revised schedule outlining the remainder of the package's production cycle. You'll note that your propellant solution is blocking Virgil's completion of the patch's metal casing. Uh-oh. Would you maybe be able to come visit me so we can go over the timeline in detail? I'm in the little office just outside the top little exit from HIA. Can't miss it. Let me know. I'm here to help you. By the marvelous mustache of Excelsior, Bertie Sharp. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so, my ex-girlfriend, Astrid, different Astrid, was studying law in Germany. And she was studying to be a lawyer, in university, studying to be a lawyer. And in Bavaria, the after effects of natural disaster and the breakdown of normal government could lead to a dystopian society, but it could just be post-apocalyptic. And post-apocalyptic isn't necessarily dystopian. It might be a bummer, but like a bummer and dystopian aren't the same, but it can, right? Like you can go to a dystopian society from a post-apocalyptic, but it could also just be post-apocalyptic, but not dystopian, right? Okay, so I'm here. We did all of that. We have more places to go, I think. There's a thing here we should look at on this other side. If we can get here, that'll be good. Okay, so my, okay, in that case, this is not a dystopia, right? Because I think, yeah. And not all utopias are fun to live in. That is also true. Yeah, and some dystopians are super fun to live in, I suppose. Not always criminal, but usually wrong in some way, or odd to embargo, and yeah, at the very least. I'm thinking of the MC in Brave New World, for example, not exactly criminal so much as defective. Yeah, criminal or maybe defective, I think all that's good. Yeah, criminal, defective, yes. Cosine, yes. Also, oh, I need to get in here, don't I? I don't know if I can, but there are more things that I could loot that I unwisely did not loot. But this door is sealed, so it looks like we're not getting in there, which means we should head to a different space. Let's go find a different spot as we wander. Mr. Monkeys, I stand corrected. Some utopias are boring AF. Carlos says post-apocalyptic differs from dystopia in both that the system is broken and that in general post-apocalypses tend to come with a sprinkling of hope to rebuild something better. Yeah, and sometimes there's no system at all, right? So there's no system. There's no system, right? And yes, sometimes there is and it's bad. Sometimes there is not. So let's see where. And sometimes the simplest action can be, yeah. Overindulgent dystopia, love it. Okay, so I just, so my ex, right, was studying law. All right, we are here. We cannot open this. Those things are kind of far away. We have got, so all the things we're looking at are kind of far away, but I just feel like we should go there. And I think that we can fast travel here. And we'll just like go over there. We've just been like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. There is fast travel. So, especially since I don't even know where anything is anymore. Okay, by the way, my groceries are being shopped for, which is pretty exciting. And it's not there yet, but okay. So, my ex was studying to be a lawyer in Bavaria. And it is said, or at least at that time it was known, that Bavaria had the hardest bar exam. And the way the bar exam works in Germany is that there isn't an objective. So we want to go there and then here. Okay, so we're going to go here first. There's a thing at the beginning of a house filled with people and you're supposed to kill them. Oh, I think we had a choice. Does this make... No, you want to see my kitchen. My grocery habits, this is like a kind of like a supplemental grocery run. Nothing super exciting. Okay, so we need to get there. This is, I think, where we're headed. I need to stop pressing that button because that is not the right button. That is not the button that's going to get me where I need to be. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to hope that if we travel this way, we're going to get where we need to be. Okay, so she was studying to be a lawyer. Yes, that is correct. That is correct, Max Ryder. So, oh, hey. Wrong button. I'm going to find the right button. We're going to find the right button. That wasn't it. That was it. Okay.
I can take a hint.
Okay, we're going to shoot this person in the head.
Here we go.
And then I'm going to very quickly try to get back to the gun that I like the best. And then I'm going to use my special slow motion thing because, like, slow motion things are good and I never use them. Oh, hey, hold on. I'm not doing well. Oh, hi. Here you go. Woo. Also, everybody use your special powers so I don't die. No dying.
Anyone else?
Just nobody die. My friends should protect me because they're better at killing things than I am. Just noting it. Oh, hi. Can I do this? Here we go. I'm gonna shoot you. I should probably stand up. She was studying to be a lawyer, right? And,
Got another fighting me.
okay, look, I didn't die. Feeling really good about that. I have to repair all my stuff, though. So she was studying to be a lawyer, and Bavaria has a very difficult law exam. And the way the bar exam works in Germany, which is not how it works in the United States, is that, so in the United States, we have the bar exam, and if you pass, you pass, right? Like that's it. Like you pass. Yay, you pass the bar exam. In Germany, they decide how many lawyers they need that cycle. And then they decide then everybody takes their exam, and then they decide the cutoff, what is a passing grade based on how many lawyers they need for that cycle. And apparently the reason why Bavaria is the hardest is because they take a lower number of people, like their cutoff is higher. So my ex studied really hard to pass the bar, and she took her exam and she failed. She was just like a couple points below the cutoff. So she studied super hard to improve her score. And then she took it the second time, and she got a score that the first time would have passed, but they upped the cutoff so she didn't make it the second time either. And she was very devastated. And I said, okay, well, that's all right. Well, but you can take it again. And she said, no, you're only allowed to take the exam twice in your entire life. And if you do not pass within those 2 times, you can never be a lawyer because you can never take it again. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? That's awful. So she has this law degree, but she can never be a lawyer. So I said, okay, well, you could be like paralegal, right? Like you could be a paralegal. And she said, no, she can't be a paralegal because in Germany, you have to be specifically trained to be a paralegal. And I was like, yeah, but you have a law degree. So, like, clearly, you should be able to be. I feel like we've spoken to these people. Yeah, I think we have. I think we've spoken to these people.
Move along, I say.
Yeah. We've spoken to them already. We've been this way. So it's fine. Just ignore that Wi-Fi connection thing. So in order to be she'd have to pass the. She'd have to move to another country, which she didn't want to do, and then she'd have to pass the bar exam there. And she didn't want to go to Germany. She likes to stay in Germany. So the thing is, she couldn't just be. Did you see something weird? So she couldn't be a paralegal because to be a paralegal, you have to have an apprenticeship in being a paralegal. So you can't be a paralegal unless you specifically train to be a paralegal. And Germany's like really into qualifications, right? A friend of mine was she worked at like a bookstore. She sold books at a bookstore, which she got an apprenticeship for, and she studied like, a 3-year apprenticeship so she could be qualified to be a person who sold books at a bookstore. And I believe there are now, some things might be changing, but basically, it's not, hey, I'm looking for something. It's not, in the United States, you can often just do jobs, even if you don't have a degree in them. You know what I mean? Like we often are just like, hey, just go do this job. So I passed by the thing that I need. It looks like this thing is on a higher level than where I'm at, if I'm reading this map correctly. Which means I need to get on this upper level. So we're going to ignore that for the moment, I think. And actually, it looks like I need to get on a higher level for all of these things. So we're going to go here, because it looks like that's how I'm going to have to go. It's what it looks like. Yeah, so like there's just a lot of specific training, and which makes it harder to just swap jobs, because if you don't have specific training, if you have not done your apprenticeship or whatever in that job, they're not going to let you do it. So a lot of things in Germany are specific jobs with specific training that in the United States are not. I mean, they are jobs, but that you don't need to have an apprenticeship in it or a specific qualification that you can do. We do a lot of on-the-job training in the United States. Like, go there and do it, and then you can like swap out to other things. Or like we're a bit more mobile that way. But I believe that a lot of the European countries, because of neoliberalism, are needing to become a bit more mobile. So how about if we try looking at this map? It seems like if we go, we could either, it looks like we could go across either one of these. Doesn't seem to matter. So let's turn around and go this way. If we're reading this map correctly, this topographical map properly. So right, it's just a different situation. Max says, are you shooting your friends in the back? Nah. I survived. It still hurts like hell, but yeah, I was on the edge of death there for a moment. Oh, that's how you dodge. Interesting. So let's see. That's about how some other tests work here. Engineer exams, I think, work like that. Keeps the country, Max says, keeps the country from getting too many lawyers, which sounds like a good thing. Missile says, that's stupid, but she did pass this. No, she didn't pass the second time because they changed the cutoff level. So it counts as not passing. Chromatic says, that happened to me in a super complex macroeconomic class needed to get the BA graduate degree. Everyone told me to hang in there and he will curve it. Turns out I was in the class with honor students, so he didn't curve it. He failed 2 PhD students and I squeaked by with a D. Normally that might have been a C or even a low B. Wow. I'm going to tell you something about curving grades in a second when I finish reading these two comments. Max says, I feel like the problem in this country is there are many people who are not qualified for their jobs, but get them for the wrong reasons. Politicians, for instance. I am not over encumbered. In this game, I'm not, I was, they just won't let you move if you're over encumbered. So these people seem to be not friends of ours. So I'm going to shoot one in the head. Like all special style, you know, like...
Attacking.
You started attacking before I went... Ouch! Don't attack now. Also, wrong button. Wrong button. Hi, everybody. Gonna kill some enemies. How are y'all doing? I should really be using my pistol because I'm way better at pistol than I'm at anything else. Here we go.
That does it.
Oh, well, everybody's dead. I didn't have to do anything at all. That was great. I like how my friends take care of things for me. That's really nice. Okay. You know, I just wish, yeah, I'm not going to say anything about that. Curving grades reminder. Oh, thank you. I'm not over encumbered. I'm over encumbrance. Yeah, the guy, sometimes they disintegrate. Or lose limbs. You know, sometimes that happens. Like this guy disintegrated. But there's still stuff in his dust that we can take. These are marauders. They are not doing well, I think is the best way to put it. They're kind of strung out on drugs, which, you know, kind of makes me feel bad to eat them. Also, I'm feeling really sad that my connection keeps getting lost, but I suppose what that means is that I don't get to play online things, online shooting games, which I don't do anyway, but you know. Curving Graves, thank you, Curving Grades, yes. There's killing one's enemies and there's... It's like in the IT field, the MSc ITP, Microsoft Certified IT Professional, is held in higher regard than a master's in computer science because the pass-fail for the MSc ITP is 4%. So if you get the 5% of the answers wrong, you fail it. So you really have to know your stuff. They're not... Okay, fair. Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Because... like, I think about this, I mean, it's really interesting because in the United States, we're funny, right? We're funny. So think about, for example, computer programming. There are people who go to college and get a bachelor's in computer science, and they have a degree in computer science, and they get a job doing computer science. There are people who get the MSc ITP but have never gone to college, and they also get jobs in computer science. And there are people who have taught themselves how to program at home by themselves, and then they also get jobs in computer science. And that would not happen in Germany. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't know if IT is a little bit different, but my ex ended up getting she got her apprenticeship in IT. So she now works in IT, but she had to go and get an apprenticeship in it. So there's that. So like sometimes people get jobs that are like, what do qualifications, like we're just, you know, we also have a whole tradition of on-the-job training where you get a job that you may not have the full training for, and then you train in it while you're at that job. So that's like a different thing as well. And I'm also thinking about, curving grades. Thank you, Max. I'm going to say that now. Let me come back to management, lower level management in Germany and management in Germany and sexism, right? Remind me to come back to that one. Remind me to come back to that. Sounds like Germany is run by guilds. The US has virtually no guilds. Basically, yeah. Ice Bunny, I feel I put my eggs in the wrong basket again. Thanks to the virus, the cultural institutions are the first to get forced closed, and established institutions struggle. So they will not let someone like me do something new and has no clue just a head full of ideas. I learned that the only job I can get is in small town, unimportant businesses. Management, yeah, don't let me forget that one. Does that apply to all fields in Germany? Like if you want to be a cook? Yeah. I mean, I had a friend of mine who is a painter, like a house painter. She had an apprenticeship in house painting. She had to, yeah. And then also what kind of jobs you can get depending on what schooling you went to, right? So, and by that, I mean, when you're in Bavaria, when you're 12, you take an exam to decide what school you're going to go to. And then that school will determine what kind of jobs you can get, right? So if you do really well in that exam, you can go to gymnasium, which is the school, and you go to school like, I don't know, till like 19 or 20, 18, 19, 20. And that if you go to that school, you can then go to university, which is free. If you go to Realschule, which is like the middle one, you can then go to like technical colleges, or get certain kinds of apprenticeships. So engineers, actors, musicians, secretaries, a lot of those folks will go to Realschule. If you go to Hauptschule, you are qualified to do things like be a baker or a factory worker or a house painter or things like that. But they go to apprenticeships. They do like a house painter apprenticeship or a bookseller apprenticeship or a baker apprenticeship. So yeah, but if you get a Hauptschule, if you go to Hauptschule, you cannot go to university. You'd have to go through basically go through a whole nother process in order to go to university. So university is free, but not everybody can go. You have to go to gymnasium in order to go to university. Yes. Even advanced degree in this subject matter, well, you don't have no experience in this field, so I'm sorry not qualified for the job. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In Bavaria, you take your exam and Bavaria, at least when I lived there, did not have what they call Gesamtschule. Gesamtschule is a new thing. And Gesamtschule, they would let all the students stay together for a couple of years, so then you could like maybe decide a little bit later, or whatever. But in Bavaria, Bavaria's kind of a conservative state, and they separate you really young. Yeah, like here's X entry level position, but you have to have X amount of on the job experience. Yet all businesses have it, so you can't get experience. Yeah. Officer Olson, I'd like to follow up with you regarding yesterday's chat. Now, this could be a whole mess, or this could be something we resolve quietly to the mutual benefit of both parties. Here's what I'm going to do. I've enclosed... Oh, yeah, I've read this already. We don't need to read that. I've read this already. We're fine. We just need to go and find some things that we are looking for. Grading curves. I do not like, nor do I approve of grading curves. Don't like it? Don't do it. I don't curve grades. Now you think, what? Why are you failing all of your students? Why are you so awful? And the thing is, I don't curve grades because I think that if I make an exam and half the students get a 35%, I have made a bad exam. I messed up, right? Like I did something very, very wrong. And I need to not make exams like that. I did something very wrong. If like, oof, yeah, I did something, I failed. Like I failed if that is what happens. That is a massive failure on my part. If that is what happens, I would be really upset if that happened, because that would be an indicator that I have screwed up real bad. So there's that place there. I wonder if we can get there. Well, we'll just see. So I know that they're like, especially the sciences, the sciences, they really like to make these exceedingly difficult exams that they expect everybody to get underneath 50% on, and then they curve it upwards. And I think they do this a lot to sort of, I don't know, demoralize people, to weed out people, but I'm not doing that. I don't have any kind of weed out classes. I just don't do that. My thinking is, rather than like, I do sort of absolute grades rather than relative grades, I think is the best way to put it. Oh, thank you. Hold on. Hold on. This is my person. Okay. They have a question for me. Let me answer my question. Because, you know, I have a question. Hold on. Let me check. Oop. Well, it's a replacement. Let's see. Okay. Yes. So, grading on a curve is about relative grades, right? And I do absolute grades rather than relative grades. So, what does that mean? I will tell you. Let me see. Let me read what people are saying. And don't let me forget to say that, but I'll tell you. That's the dumbest concept I've ever heard. I've heard some idiotic concepts from someone. Well, you know, they say that people should not get more education than they need, is what some of my friends told me. Well, exemption means that one school, hold on, only means that one school has all three branches that can stay in what they are placed into. Yeah. I don't think I ever curved my tie school. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I'm glad when I studied radio broadcasting, part of the school was on-the-job experience. We had to work on our shifts. That's good. Should many students failing look bad on the students or the teacher? I think it should look good on bad on the teacher. I would be horrified if that happened. Chromatic says, I think in my case, because me and the others didn't master the advanced math needed to relate to the equations. I haven't thought about that. So there's a Hauptschule in Berlin who teaches the kids how to be on welfare. No joke. The teachers argue that they have to prepare the students for their life in the future. It's messed up. Didn't they, like, do something about that? Oh, I should be here while that's happening. Shouldn't exam tests be merely to see if the students are getting the subject material instead of judging the student? And standardized and test rates. Yeah, all those things are true. Yes. Grumbleskin says, hey, I really love watching you, GM. Superb. Thank you very much. I love coming here and hearing different viewpoints on world issues and learning about other people and viewpoints. Me too. You should be one of those if Twitch streamers who are popular, like you were talking about earlier. Cheers, brother. Awesome. Thank you very much. I kind of somehow don't imagine that my vibe, I feel like I would need to have more, I don't know what. Sometimes I see this, I can't even tell you. I just think it's random. I think it's random luck. That's what I think. Anya Geek says, is that in a sense like here in the US we want classes to say about taxes, how to pay them what they are, and basic life skills? I imagine that's what's going on there. So when I think about curved, so I'm going to tell you a story. While my character walks around a little bit. I was a TA for this one class that was very, very cool, but interesting. And the class was the 1960s, and it was called a cluster class, and it was for first-year students. It was at UCLA, and the concept of the class was that it was year-long. It was all 3 quarters, and hey, we have not been here before, and there are things here. This is new. This is exciting. Though there are monsters over there, and I feel like we should just go and eat them. Kill them. Let's kill those monsters so that they're dead, and we don't have to worry about them on our way out. Just in case. Just in case. We've got to eat some food, because apparently eating food is a thing you have to do, which, I don't know who came up with that idea. Back when I was in high school in the 80s, they taught us checkbook balancing. I think we filled out our photo tax forms. Yeah, that was a thing they would do that's something they do. We also did, like, fake stocks, but yeah. So if I understand it, they teach how to fill out the forms you have to get welfare, how to make 300, 400 euros last a month, and where to get help from organizations that are food pantries. Dead people who we didn't kill ourselves. Interesting. Let's empty their pockets. Like, their pockets are probably not helping them. So we're gonna just do this. Wrong button. I pressed the wrong button. It's cool. Cool. Here, use your special powers. Do that. And then also use your special powers. And then I'm gonna deal with this thing that's chasing me. Right, so in the class, the thing about it is that it had 4 different professors who all in the class. Are you alive still? Here, let's kill you. There we go. Ooh, Nyoka, you're not doing well health-wise. All right. Am I encumbered right now? That seems odd. I can't imagine that's true. Why would I be encumbered? I think that can't be true. I think that's a lie. Right? Yes. Also, I wish those little alerts would stop popping up because come on now. You know what? We shouldn't be here. We should not be on this side of the building because it will distract us. We should look at that when we get there. We should be, what's the word? Systematic about these things. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be systematic. We're gonna just not go to places we don't need to be in yet. Now, I'm going to just check to see if I am encumbered. There's this little weight sign above me that seems to imply that I'm encumbered, but I don't know if that's true. Oh, I am encumbered. Look at that. Huh, weird. Well, I am going to repair all my equipped stuff, and we will accept that. And then I'm going to look. Once we get to we'll sell some stuff. It'll be fine. We'll eat some food. We will not be encumbered for very long. We'll just because I'm sure we've got some trash. Look, we've got some trash we can get rid of. We just need to find a vending machine. We'll sell all that, and then we'll be back down to like decent amounts of. It'll be fine. We'll be fine. This building is sealed. Well, look at that. Did you just kill Beach Boys? Maybe. Systematic, what does that mean? Well, like I just like go area by area so I don't like miss anything to loot. You know what I mean? I just don't want to miss any looting opportunities. Is really what I mean by that. Normally, you get prepped to pick a job training. There's no what do you want to be when you grow up, and when you were ninth grade, you were like 13 or 14, and that is very young to be told you'll never make it no matter what. Lub Glubs, yeah, that's Lub Glubs. That's that sounds to me like the Ewoks, right? Remember, you have to eat all the times because I did take the advantage against your advice, but I feel like it's like proper. I feel like I deserve it. You know? Okay, so curves, 4 professors, right? And the concept was to have 2 professors in the arts humanities and 2 professors in the social sciences and sciences, right? All teaching the same topics that the students get to go and see like different approaches. And the class was the 60s, and we had a musicologist, which was why I was TAing for it. And then we had somebody in English, and then we had 2 political scientists. I think we should have had 1 political scientist and someone else, but we had 2 political scientists. And, oh, you're right, Ewoks is Yup Nup. I just want to make sure I've got no... Okay. So then, what happened? Right, so we have to grade. Like as TAs, we have to do the grading. And each professor comes up with their own assignments, and then they tell us how to grade. And our social scientist professor said that we had to have an average grade of an 88, I think, we had to have, when we added up all of our grades together, it had to be an 88 average. And I said, so it's basically curved, right? And she's like, no, there's no curve. It's just that it has to add up to an 88 average. And I said, well, but that means so an 88 is a B plus. So that means if I want someone to get an A minus, somebody else has to get a B. Nobody can get an A minus unless somebody gets a B or less. And she goes, well, and I was like, yeah, that's a curve, right? She's like, no, that's not a curve. And I was like, but that is a curve. And she's like, yeah, that's what it was. Like I said, okay, that's fine. But can I tell the students that that's what we're doing? Because I feel like they deserve to know that we're grading on a curve. And she says, no, we cannot tell them. And I was like, that's unethical. I do not feel comfortable lying to the students, right? I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good, but I had to do it, and I was very unhappy about it because the grades were relative to each other, right? And she's like, don't worry about it. It won't be a problem. Somebody's probably going to get a C, and then you can... I was like, yeah, I don't... But that means if I grade everybody, and then I don't get that average, I'm going to have to lower people's grades or raise people's grades, right? And I was like, didn't like it. And that is just not how I grade or how I was taught to grade in the humanities, right? In the humanities, or how I was taught, I was like, look, I will grade on a curve, but I have to be able to tell them that that's how we're grading. I want them to know how it is we're grading. And there were a couple of things that she often didn't want us to share the grading rubrics with the students. Like she would give us these grading rubrics, like give them 10 points for this and 20 points for this and 10 points for this. I was like, okay, can we share this with them? Like, no, don't share this with them. I was like, but I feel like they should know that they're gonna be graded on these things. Like, I don't, anyway, I didn't like that at all. It was like a thing that I did not appreciate in any kind of a way. I didn't like it. I think I remember, like for me, the way I do it is I talk to my TAs and I say, okay, this is theoretically what a B+ paper is. I want you to imagine a B+ paper is this idea, right? We sort of come up with an idea. Oh, Adventure Time, Black Forest Horse. Oh, yes, I remember them now. Yeah. Ice Bunny says, and one thing is, if students have social problems in gymnasium, they get thrown out and sent to the Realschule. If they do not function there, they end up in Hauptschule. Or their parents are influential and keep them in gymnasium. Yeah, but that means someone has to fail. That's horrible. Well, no, see, the thing is, if your average is an 88, nobody has to fail. It's just that nobody gets above a B+ and unless somebody gets below a B+, right? I didn't like it. She was not a sociologist, she's a political scientist. So the way I do it, this is how I do grading. In my mind, I have an idea of what is a good average paper, right? And that is a B+. So a good average paper is, so I think about there are two elements to work: idea and execution, right? Yeah, her insistence on a blind side makes less sense. But she was very stats oriented in some kind of weird way. Anyway, so for me, there's idea, right? There's concept and there's execution. Those are like the two sort of main elements that I think about. And an A paper has excellent concept and excellent execution. An A- has very good ideas, very good execution, or excellent concept, but a little bit less good, but decent. Excellent concept, decent execution, or excellent execution, but decent concept. A B+ is good. Execution and concept are good. They're fine. Nothing's bad with it. It's fine. It's not inspiring. It's okay. They didn't do anything wrong, but nothing is really great. Or really good concept, but not good execution, or really good execution, but not good concept, right? And then when we get to like a B, something is just fine, and then something else is less fine, right? And then if we get to like a B-, both things are less fine. If we get lower than a B-, things are actively terrible, right? That's about the sort of idea. She shouldn't have told me either. Yeah. Sadly, I've worked in places where annual performance reviews are also rank based. So nothing is rank based. And so what this means to me is that if everybody does excellent work, then everybody gets an A. That's it. If nobody does excellent work, we're going to be working on that one. We'll have to figure usually I find out before we get to the end. So that's probably not going to happen. By that argument, two grades could have the same exact grade, but they cannot receive the same grade. Yeah. So for me, you mean, for hers or mine, Missile Monkey? By that argument, which one? The one for hers or mine? Two students could, hers. No. I think that what she would say is, by hers, I could have made my grading, because I grade like 100 papers, easy. I could have given everybody an 88, and then we're good, because then we'd have an 88 average. By her mode, in order for someone to get above an 88, someone else must get below an 88. Now, she would not want me to grade somebody who would deserve an 88 less than an 88 in order to have someone else be above an 88. Let me be very, very clear. She said B+ is what she said. That's what she said. She didn't say 88, she said B+. This is important because I was able to cheat to win. basically, right? The only way her way would have worse is if it was 88 or higher. No, it was B plus. And here's the thing: a B plus is an 87 to an 89. That is a B plus. So what I did was I basically graded all of the B pluses 87s. I didn't give any B plus an 89 because that would give me a little bit of extra space, right? So like I think we had to have an 88. So I gave a whole bunch of people, all my B pluses I gave 87s rather than 89s, which gave me a little bit of extra bump so that if somebody should have gotten like a 90 something, I had a couple extra points that I could then give them so they could get an A minus, right? And all my A minuses were 90 on the dot, and none of them were like because an A minus was like 92. So I didn't give any A minuses 92s because, and 90 and a 92 are both an A minus, but those 2 extra points I could use, right? So I basically had to do a lot of creative math giving to make sure, yeah, it was an 88 is what she wanted, to make sure that I could get people above a B plus if they deserved it, is what I needed. Well, my food is not delivered yet, so I do still have some time. I would have got my ass fired from that job. And the thing is, one of the reasons why she did this, her rationale is because there were, oh gosh, like 5 or 6 TAs, or 5 or 6 of us. She did not want some TAs to grade higher than other TAs, and then people would hear that this TA is an easy grader and that TA is a hard grader, and then people want to go to that TA and not this other TA. So she wanted all the TAs to have the exact same average so that all of us were the same. And I was like, yeah, I don't like it, but I'll do it as long as I can tell the students that's what we're doing. But she wouldn't let me do that, and I was really upset about it. I was really upset about it. I was not happy about it at all. Anyway, so like I would say that in my seminars, which have like, 7 to 12 people, most of the time everybody gets an A in my seminar because it's a lot of work, but by the time you get there, some people don't get A's in the seminar, but oftentimes people do because they just work really hard. They do excellent work and it's great. In my big lecture classes, there are people who may not come to class, may not do their work, and then some people don't get A's, and there are a lot of A minuses, sometimes A minuses, B pluses, a lot of those classes. But like, I don't mind if everybody gets an A in class, if everybody earned an A. If everybody earns an A, everyone's going to get an A. If you did not earn an A, you won't get an A. That's it. Like so for me, I have an idea of what a platonic idea of what an average paper is. And if you meet that, then you get above an average grade. And if I look at all of the papers, and what my ideal of average is unrealistically high, I sort of do some self-assessment and decide if my idea of average is off, in which case I adjust, or if they're not getting something, in which case we do more work to get them where they need to be. Yeah. Trooper, they will never send one from Haupt to Realstadt. Oh, of course not. Haupt is the end of the road, and I experienced that a lot of hate. When you work your way up, you get a ton of people who gave up. Oh, yeah. But I know people who maybe should not have stayed in gymnasium but did because their parents were wealthy. Yeah. That's flawed, but we cannot. Yeah. I grade it as, yeah, that is my mode is you grade as people deserve. Like they get the grades that they deserve, and if you deserve those good grades, you get those good grades, and that's what it is. I would have told them anyway, and when it became an issue, I would take it to the ethics board. But the problem is, people in the sciences do that all the time. That's how they grade. I just feel like, okay, but then tell them. Barton, thanks for subbing in for Lenator. Priantha scored one hell of a body goal on us last week, and in the process tore our goalie a new Wednesday zone. Lenator's fault. Hullhead thinks he's Bertie Holcomb himself. Seeing as you just finished the night shift, Frida's letting us swing by her place to get some Adrena time from her stash so you don't nod off mid-period, and to give you a little edge on Doc Priantha, if you catch my meaning. Trust me, you'll be glad for it. Back in 20, Tillman. So yeah, that's a bunch of, I want to know why. You know what? It's because I'm on Wi-Fi, and this Wi-Fi is not the best Wi-Fi, is what I'm trying to tell you. And that makes me less excited. It makes me less excited. So there's a bunch of stuff to loot here, but I don't think we're going to loot that stuff because we're going to go into this building. And I want us to, like, it's like systematic stuff. Yeah, I read your paper and confirmed your sources, but I cannot give you a passing grade. Well, on the plus side, her mandated average was an 88, so that means everyone can certainly pass. Some of these things are for word from the source material. Yeah. Well, I mean, plagiarism's a thing. Fiber optic out here at the sticks. Okay, look, there's a bunch of stuff in here that I can loot. That's awesome. And it's not gonna lend a problem to my encumbrance situation at all. So, look, I've got some stuff that we're gonna just sell because I don't want Krellin to be disappointed in me. We'll do it. We just have to get to like a selling place. That's all. And then you know, we'll get to the selling place and we'll sell the stuff and it'll be fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I did not like that. That was not a thing that I enjoyed. And so I just don't curve grades. You get the grade you get. Like, you get the grade you earned. If you do really well, you get a really good grade. If you do not do really well, then you do not get a very good grade. And that is just, that's how I roll. And I let everybody know how I'm grading, what I'm grading on. There are no surprises at all. Never any surprises. I don't see any reason for that. I also don't do gotcha questions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do gotcha questions because I don't see what the point of that is. Yeah, I don't see the point of gotcha questions, basically. So I don't do those either. Because I'm not trying to fail you. I find that uninteresting and not useful. And I don't, it's like, you know what it's like? You know what it's like? This is about gymming, actually. This is a gymming thing. If you don't like a grade, trade it with another student lunch. Yeah. So for me, this is like jamming. Back in the day, when I student taught, I taught a separate piece and give them bonus questions worth 10 points. What was the writer's name in the story? I don't tend to do, I also don't tend to do bonus. I'm like, here's what it is. Do it. Do your thing. I don't tend to give bonus questions, but I tend to write questions that are about being able to show off your knowledge as opposed to me trying to get you. Do you know what I mean? So I tend to, oh, it's never mentioned. Oh, interesting. I tend to do very open sort of questions, like, yeah. By the way, I want to know what love is. I watch. Oh, hey. Where are we on the map right now? What's going on? Well, that's interesting. I want to get into these buildings. So, before we go up here, let's not. Let's see if this will get us somewhere else instead. Let's go this way, because we're trying to, get stuff. So the worst conversation with professor I ever had hit my learning disability, as you all know I don't catch my written mistakes. So I turned in paper and I got the paper back. Professor cornered me and said, how could you write something so great so badly? I was up all night giving you this A. Straight bonuses we never discussed. Oh, yeah. What is up, people heart me? I had a ton of Nachlife too, and my bully was my extra German teacher, and I confirm it as a BS to put it to extra German class at 2 hours a day, 4 times a week, because my bully gaslit me by telling me that I'm lazy and fat, and say that to a teenager who regularly had meltdowns because living with an Alzheimer's person in the close family was not easy. This monkey says, my second professor did a comprehensive final exam, so you score on that final exam was your grade for the class. The reason I passed that class with a B+. Oh, interesting. I try to have things be worth, I try to have like a lot of different things with the varying amounts so that like if you don't do this one thing, it's not the end of the world for you. You know what I mean? Like I try to give people flexibility. There was a thought. I really wish I could hardwire my PS4 into... I really wish I could. That is a thing that I am... Well, that's interesting, but I feel like... Oh, we've never been here before. Well, that's interesting. I do not think we should go in here right now, because there are still things we're supposed to be finding over here, and we're going to find them. We found one thing. If we can find a second thing, I'm going to feel very productive today. I dropped a speech class at one time because she told us we could do any topic in each unit style, and she wanted us to submit our topics for each. Then when I submitted mine, she was like, yeah, you shouldn't do a speech on that because nobody would care. Oh, yeah, no, be consistent. If I say you can, look, I try to be very clear about what I mean, and I will say something like, I usually don't say you can do whatever you want. That's really broad. I usually say something like, you can do whatever you want, as long as it is relevant to this class, and you cannot do anything that we like. So, for example, you got like, I'll say, pick two songs. Pick two songs to do your. Let's go in here. Yeah, let's go in here. Pick two songs, and like one of the rules is that they cannot be both on the syllabus. So when you write a paper, there's got to be at least something that is completely new, right? Ooh, hey, I should eat food. So, pick a song, and let me eat this food. So pick a song, two songs, any two songs you want that are relevant to this class, and then write a paper where you talk about those songs in some kind of larger issue. Other than that, pretty open. I give people tips, like you could theoretically do one song. It's a little bit more difficult, but you can. You could do 3 songs, but that's more difficult as well. 4 songs is probably just not doable. It's probably too much to do in an 8 to 10 page paper. If you want to do 4, here's some tips about how to make that work perhaps better. I'll give people tips, and if they really, really want to do 4 songs, which I do not recommend, they can. But if you're going to do 4, I tell them they should probably be thinking of 2 and 2, right? Like 2 pairs of songs, so that you don't actually have to do background on 4 songs, but like 2 pairs of 2. That's probably doable. But anyway, I give people tips so they can succeed. That's what I'm trying to do, generally speaking, because I want people to do well. That's what you know what I mean? That's what I want. Wizard says, well, you got an A at least. Some professor would not have been able to look past the spelling mistakes. And also, I would say, like, if somebody's got dyslexia or something like that, that's when we start talking about getting accommodations, right? There are accommodations that one can get for that. Wizard Style says, which reminds me of a conversation of a person with ADHD I recently had about their experiences as a student. As someone who's taught 8 graduate courses, I can say that neither professors nor the PhD students doing a lot of the actual teaching really learn to teach themselves. They definitely don't learn how to deal with disability or neurodiversity. A lot of people don't, but a lot of that conversation, Wizard Styles, I think is fairly new, right? The idea, I have been teaching at this university for 13 years. And when I first started, we were not getting a lot of accommodations for neurodiversity, but now we get a lot all the time. In every class I have more and more accommodations for disability and neurodiversity. But I also think that's because more people are getting diagnosed. Back in the day, people weren't getting diagnosed with these things as high rates. I mean, we're just not, as a society, we were not as well versed in neurodiversity as we are now. So I feel like there's a lot more awareness and a lot more thought being put in it. For that example, I would choose a singular song, but it would be by different artists to show. Oh, that's great. So Anya Geek, if you did one song but multiple artists, you could do more. You could do 4. Like that would actually not be so bad, right? If you did one song by 3 is probably, I would say, one song, 3 different artists. 3 is a good. Depends on what your other frame is, right? So for me, I always try to tell people when you're going to talk about music, you have to have a point, right? You have to have some sort of issue, and to sort of figure out what kind of songs or what you want to do. You want to have different vectors. So I always say that different vectors to help you organize your thoughts and your arguments can be things like time, location, gender, race, sexuality, age, so any kind of identity factor, instrumentation, genre, all sorts of things, right? So, hey, Lindy. Oh, sorry. I was not saying hydrated, but thank you for reminding me. Oh yeah. So, what I would say is, if your vector were time, for example, you could do. So, for example, I do the song "Lift Every Voice and Sing" in class, and if I were to make that a paper, that would be time, and I would do. There's a version I have from the 40s, which is the basically pre-civil rights. I have a version from the late 60s civil rights movement, and then I have one Beyonce right at a Coachella. So that's three different versions from three different time periods. So that'd be like that's good. Early, middle, late, right? That's a good one. I had a student who's going to do a song about marijuana songs, and the paper was terrible because he had no argument. He just had songs sort of randomly, and I was like, okay, you could, if you wanted to do a song about marijuana, you could do marijuana. We've had a whole process of legalization of marijuana, so if you wanted, you could do one song from one California song from before legalization about marijuana, and one California song after legalization about marijuana. Or you could do one artist, and you could do three songs by them, one early in their career, one middle in their career, one late in their career. Or Kanye before the car accident, before his mother died, after his mother died. Or you could do a song from like I did a song. I did a paper on new wave songs about Big Brother, right? New wave songs about the police state, and I did three songs. No, I'm not talking to you. And I did three songs, but my vector was location, right? So I did a German one, a British one, and an American one, and talked about how one's proximity to the border, right, affected how one dealt with the police state, right, in the early 80s, right? So like you always have to have some kind of vector, and what that vector is will tell you how many songs you need to do. Basically, right? Sometimes you just need to do two. Sometimes you just need to do one. Sometimes you need to do three or four. But I will just say it's really hard in 8 to 10 pages to do 4 songs. And more than 4 is almost impossible to do well in 8 to 10 pages, because 8 to 10 pages is almost no time at all. Like you have very little space in 8 to 10 pages to get anything done, is what I would say. Grubble's gonna ask, what is it you teach? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm a musicologist. I teach popular music studies. Let's see. Mr. Monkey, I had at least one teacher refuse to acknowledge my IEP, claimed that it existed because I was lazy and didn't want to do the work. She was alone on that subject. What? Well, that's, you have severe reading comprehension issues. Yeah, that's a problem, right? Like, I mean, right now I'm dealing with the students, I'm trying to deal with what to do about this one student who needs to be able to eat in class in the middle. Like, if we were not in the middle of a pandemic, I would say just eat in class. I don't care. But we currently are in the middle of a pandemic, so I'm trying to figure out if I need to sort of take the class online or if I can, because I'm not really allowed. So I'm trying to work it out, because I want everybody to get the things they need, right? It does seem to me like it's more of a conversation in the U.S. than Europe. I think that's probably also true. Ice Bunny says, well, I hope you are better than my alma mater. They give you stuff, but you have to return things if I stop being dyslexic after I graduate. But that is the downside of giving everything to the government. Wizard South says, but also there's honestly only so much that can be expected from teachers that aren't professional teachers. As a PhD student, I did what I could to be a good teacher, but I had no time to really learn how to be a good teacher. I would say that part of what you should be doing in your PhD program, or at least part of what I got in mine, was learning how to be a teacher. Usually through basically an apprenticeship with my advisor, right? Like being a teaching assistant was about learning how to teach. And when I have teaching assistants, and I always thinking of my teaching assistants as apprentices. I always teach them, I was like, hey, this is how I put together a lecture. This is how I put together my syllabus. This is how I grade. This is how I want you to grade. This is what I want you to think about this. And then I have each one of them give a guest lecture in class. And then I give them feedback on the guest lecture. We talk about it. And so I try to teach them how to teach, because I think that's important. Johnny Geek. So, for example, the song "Hurt" by Nine Inch Nails, but covered and completely reinterpreted by Johnny Cash, which ended up being his final performance. Right. And so, like, okay, so that's interesting. You look at "Hurt" by Nine Inch Nails. So is your paper about Nine Inch Nails and Johnny Cash, those two versions? If so, then what is your argument going to be? Or You could also, for example, look at the final songs by 3 or 4 different performers, different performers, right? Like "Hurt" by Johnny Cash, the last song by David Bowie, maybe the last, like, you know what I mean? Like maybe you could pick 3 songs by people who are like dying, and it was like the last song. That could be interesting. You might learn something there about mortality. That could be interesting, right? Like, you know, you figure it out. I cannot watch Johnny Cash's version after understanding its without crying. That's Miss Monkey. Green Moon says, I took one college math course back in 2009 before I was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD. I ended up dropping it due to frustration. What accommodations do they have these days? Well, there are all sorts of different accommodations. It depends. Gosh, there are a lot of different things. Like if people have dyslexia, sometimes they actually have tools. There are sort of do you know to dance the bomb you need a little bit of grace? Actually, I did hear that. For you and for me, you know? So sometimes there's actually different software that can help people with dyslexia. With ADHD, you were a totally amazing teacher, you're so lucky. I think I'm average. Now, I have gotten some teaching awards. That is true. But I still think of myself as like just what you should be doing. You know what I mean? I don't think of myself as anything particularly special. For ADHD, it depends on how your ADHD manifests. Let's see. Oh, Instacart's on the way. Awesome. The person will probably be here at 3:35. Perfect. So it depends on how your ADHD works. Everybody's ADHD is a little bit different. So, for example, I never had problems taking standardized tests. That wasn't like in a room with everybody else. That wasn't actually a problem for me. That wasn't because usually like in a classroom where you're taking tests, nobody's doing anything, so I'm usually fine. But I have students who, for example, they need to be in a distraction-free environment if they take their exam. So they do not take the exam with everybody else. They go into a private room and they take their exam there. I have people who need extra time on exams, so they get 50% time. So if everybody gets 2 hours for their exam, they get 3 hours for their exam. Some people need to have their stuff gone through the Academic Resource Center for typing, or they might use Grammarly or something like that. Software they can get that help. I have a student that needs an extension on his work. So whatever work he has, he gets an extra 1 to 3 days on his work because he cannot turn in things on time. I suspect he probably has ADHD, but I'm not certain because they don't tell us what the accommodation's for. But he has a problem getting things in on time. And so he has an accommodation where he can turn things in 1 to 3 days late without penalty, and maybe even get more time if he needs it. So like, they're just like different sorts of accommodations. Like some students need to be able to use a computer in class. Some students need to, there's just a lot of different things actually, you know. If you have a blind student, different accommodations, just different things all around, which, you know, I'm happy to do. Like if it were my paper, I would go with the song "Paint It Black" and the comparison between the original by the Rolling Stones and the cover by Dead Sea with aspects of cadence, tone, and instrumentation. Interesting. Now, on a geek, here's what I'm going to say: to make a good paper, you have to have a point, right? That's one of the things that people sometimes forget. Like I always think about analysis of music, like you don't want your paper to be like a crossword puzzle where you just note the differences and you don't say what they mean. You want to have something to say. Like, what does that mean? What does that tell you? You want to have some kind of larger point. And the larger point might be about, it could be about anything really, right? I mean, it could be about music or the artists or the time period or whatever you want, but you've got to be able to sort of take what you observe, and that's the key. And people who I think are boring musicologists never make that step. You take your observations and then you use it for something larger. And if you do that, then you've got something very interesting. And then how successful it is basically about how effective you are in that one. Johnny Cash's producers didn't believe that he was being serious with closing the piano, which has still never been opened again. I've had to explain to a few people that it's a tradition with musicians and their final performances. Yep. It doesn't always happen, but it is common. Yeah. That's right, Mr. Monkey. That's what he says. For dyslexia, I was offered a hand scanner to read books, a computer program for spelling, audio library access for books, and some classes on top of unit classes that I never took because of COVID. Yeah. So there are a lot of things there. These students ever talk to you about these accommodations ever? Is it them who ask for these things, or is it the office who asks them, do you want this? And they say yes. What ends up happening is with the accommodations, it's a couple of things. Oftentimes, well, it depends on the student. First thing I would say is that there are a lot of students who do not have a lot of privilege who never ask for accommodations, and they just suffer, and then they get bad grades. And then I'm usually the one who's like, hey, you used to be having a hard time in class. Is everything okay? And they're like, no. I was like, have you gone to see somebody about this? They're like, no. I was like, you know that you're paying, your tuition pays for these things. You should go and like check things out. And if you need an accommodation, you should go and get one. And then they go and they talk to the office accommodations, all this stuff. Then they get an accommodation, and then things are worked out. People who are used to having a lot of sort of access and privilege, usually they immediately go to the accommodations office. They say, hey, I've got this thing. I need some accommodations. They get the accommodation letter. They then will email the student will email the professor with the accommodation letter written by the accommodations office. And the accommodations letter say, this student is entitled to these accommodations. And they give you that, the student gives you that letter to let you know that these are the accommodations that they want. And then as the professor, you give them those accommodations. That's basically what happens. If there's a concern, you can talk to the accommodations office or with the student or without the student. But these are things that they are entitled to, right? These students are entitled to these accommodations. And so it is not up to me to not give it to them if they give me the letter. If they give me the accommodations letter, then I give them those accommodations. If the accommodation will not work for some reason, then we have a big, larger discussion about what we can do to be flexible. His own daughter even commented that it sounded like he was saying goodbye, and his own response was, I was. Oof. He knew he was leaving us and it would make us hurt, yeah. And the Autobus Library is giving you the material at the end of the semester, yeah. Nods at Trooper about what does it mean needs to be in your content? How I got through college over my writing issues. Yeah. My food has not arrived yet. It should be here in like 10 minutes. So that's what, yeah. My point would probably be my preference towards the Dead Sea version being better because, say in tone, since the song's about grief and loss, the Rolling Stones version tone is too poppy, but the Dead Sea version is about darker tones. So here's the thing, Ani Geek. I say this to people. Whether you like something or not is not interesting. Or if you write, I find that's never an interesting paper. Nobody cares if you like something or dislike something. That's just not interesting. It's not interesting if I like something or not like something. That doesn't. So you need to go further. You want to sort of push that idea further, right? So you're thinking about, so for you, what you've noticed is that the Dead Sea version has darker tones, right? But the Stones version sounds more poppy to you. Now, I would note that when the song was released, it did not sound poppy. It sounded rocky, and people were like, oh, this is deep. So what I would do is I was like, okay, these are my feelings, me being you. Let me go and read what people said about both songs when it came out. So I'd probably go and look up like the Rolling Stone magazine or record reviews from the time, see what people at the time said about the song, newspaper articles, see how people then received it. Then I'd see what people said about the Dead Sea version, see what they said. I'd see if there's a difference in how we now hear the Stones versus how people at the time heard the Stones. Because I think about things like a lot of the Ramones, people are like, oh, that doesn't sound hardcore at all. But at the time, people thought it was like insanely hardcore, right? So I would think about, okay, so there's this difference between these two versions. How do people think about it then? How do people think about this one now? Is there a difference in how we perceived it then versus now? Because pop in the 60s did not sound like Paint It Black. Do you know what I mean? So what does that mean? What has our sense of darkness changed? Why? And all of a sudden now you have a paper topic that is a bit deeper and that you could go more into, right? So it's no longer about whether or not you like something more or not, because that's not really interesting. But what darkness might mean, how our idea of darkness has changed from then to now, right? That would be an interesting paper that used same songs, same things you're noticing in terms of tone and cadence, but now it becomes about what does darkness mean? right? How do we manifest darkness in music over time and why? And what do those changes mean, right? So those are the things that will get you to a more interesting thesis. Pop, in its essence, is subjective with the time. Yeah, so did you tell your shopper that building 40 is like safe at the door? We do not... They, we hope it'll be okay. I hope it'll be okay. Yeah, so on a gig, and for me, and the thing is, if you really love something, sometimes that's the hardest thing to write on. But if you really love something, the best thing you can do is to make an argument about what it's doing and how it does well that's not about your taste, if that makes any sense. Although sometimes if you really love it, it's a little bit hard to write on it. I find that's when I want to do when I want to give my students there's this thing that I do sometimes. I haven't done it recently just because of timing. It's my favorite pair of assignments because it's really hard. And the first one is to write like a little 4-page paper, 4 pages about pick a song that you really dislike, that you don't like very much at all, and write about how that song is important to someone or to a people or a time. And I shouldn't be able to tell from reading the paper that you don't like that song. So pick a song you're just not into, and then talk about why that song is important to someone, or a time, or a place. And then the students tend to be pretty good with that one. Sometimes they fail, right? Like I said, here's your warning. Yes, I will. I'll read that report. I said, here's your warning. I said, when you write this paper, you're not allowed to say something like, this song is important to people because people are stupid and have bad taste. No, don't do that one, right? But people usually are pretty decent with that one. Sometimes people struggle, but generally people are pretty decent with that one. But the harder assignment is to pick a song that you love more than anything and tell me about why that song is important to a time or place or a people without letting me know that you love it. That one's really hard for people because people sometimes just lose their mind when it comes to songs that they love, and they stop being able to talk about it in detail. And they're just like, it's so amazing. It's like, that is not going to help us. Like, it's so amazing is not going to help you. And it's not going to help that song. You've got to start talking about how, like, what Dead Z does reflects, like, I don't know, post-Columbine. Come to a way to talk about the way that which this song is doing something really important. And then you make a good case for Dead Z, and people will appreciate Dead Z, and maybe even like Dead Z more without it being a cheerleading song, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? And that becomes, and then you actually get people to think about something, and that's really cool. I'm going to read this. To the coworker who finds this. Given you're reading this, I'm likely dead. I'm very sorry about that. I'm also sorry Spacer's Choice had to send someone else to finish my assignment. As of the moment I'm writing this, Charles Novak still possesses the express mail delivery prototype. I believe he's gone entirely mad, as he has abandoned his apartment and taken up with a group of marauders not far from here. Charles no longer recognizes me. He can't even recognize the Spacer's Choice jingle. What is this? It's not there yet. When I sang it for him to try to coax him into a calmer state, he shot me in the arm. If you're here to retrieve the prototype, here's what you should know. The prototype remains intact. The prototype has been modified to simultaneously fire multiple projectiles, and the original package housing chamber appears to have been replaced with an explosive payload. Please note that I did not sanction these modifications, nor do I approve of setting fire to company correspondence. Charles' depravity knows no bounds. The original prototype was only intended to deliver packages more quickly, nothing more, and I'd sooner die than to see it used for violence. To that end, I'm going to try to recover the prototype from Charles. Should I fail, please remember me fondly despite my incompetence. Faithfully, Diane Shute. Also, I am very, very sad that she is so into the corporate life. That's all I have to say. Also, I think we ran into that place. I think it was those marauders outside that we ran into. I think. By the way, I just want to say for the record that I have been very productive. Well, I've not been very productive, but we did get stuff done today, and I feel like you should all be proud of me for getting stuff done. By the way, I want you to know that I'm going to get my groceries, and I have to take my COVID test today. I take it 3 times a week. And today is day COVID test 3 for the week. And I am going to do all of that. And then... Oh, hey! It looks like my food might be here. I am going to check to see if that is true. Is it here? It is here. And then I'm going to say thank you and thank you. Boom. Ta-da. That's it. I'm sorry that I seem stuck on one subject. Of course, I'm never apologize for that. I'm happy with all subjects. But it is said when John Carter Cash heard Humphrey's cover of Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire during the sing-off, he stopped everything he was doing and cried for hours. Oh, that's really interesting. But also, I think it's important to note how sometimes people are not feeling those things. They're just saying that they feel them, but they don't. They're really good performers because singers are performers who put on feelings in order to make you feel things. And sometimes they're not actually feeling it. They're performing it. And so that becomes also interesting. And then sometimes somebody's really feeling it, but we don't believe them. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of really interesting things you could do in terms of feeling it or not feeling it, or people's perception of somebody feeling something or not feeling something. Like all those things I think are fascinating things that can be explored. And you could probably make a really interesting paper, right, about that. You could probably also do an interesting paper when it comes to Johnny Cash, like maybe comparing his Hurt with one of his like really miserable songs from when he was not dying and comparing and contrasting that. Or another song from that same time period that we do not associate with his death so much. That could also be really interesting. Like maybe look at the entire album and see if you notice anything interesting there. Like, because there's like, look, there's a lot you could do that would be really neat. That's what I'm going to say. By the way, in case you're wondering what I'm doing, because it does not look like I'm picking up my groceries, which I'm going to do right now, I'm just looting this building so that we can leave and leave ourselves in knowing where we're going. So we finished this building. We're going to stand right here and then we're going to save so that I can pick up my groceries and save in the game. Look, we actually did some game stuff today. I feel pretty good about that, right? Like I feel good about it. All right, main menu. Accept. Yes. Okay. Oh no, not a home test. I have to go into we have a testing center that I have to go to 3 times a week. I did play some Outer Worlds, right? COVID tests are like driving tests. You take them until you pass. Yes. All right. I'm gonna go. Ooh, compare it to a boy named. So that would be a good one, actually. That would be a good one. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of adrenaline time, and I'm very worried about it. There's a lot of good chat, and that makes me happy. So look, here's what's what. I've got to go and pick up my groceries, put them away. I've got to get my COVID test. I've got to go and do some work for my seminar, and then I've got to do work on my secret project. I've got to cook a bunch of food, cooking food, so that I have food for the next 4 to 6 days, so that when the school starts, when I'm doing because on Tuesdays I teach from 9 to 5, and I often don't eat, so I need to make sure I do all my eating and get all my stuff. And cooking streams when? Oh, I'd have to be able to move stuff around. I have questions about that. Well, it's 9 to 5 in the actual building, then of course all the post stuff. So here's what's what. Where to find me. So I'm not streaming tomorrow. So first off, we've got a Discord. You can join it, hang out with us, because we like to do that. You can find me on Twitter at Academic Foxhole, on YouTube with Trooper SJP, where there's the archive of all the stuff. Here on Twitch, of course. I've got a Patreon, which is at Academic Foxhole, and that goes to pay for the cast for the shows and for art and all that kind of stuff, which just reminded me there's a thing I need to do. Remind myself, Colos, and remind myself. And for streaming next week, as long as Dot's up for it, I should be streaming Simply Divine with her Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Thursday evening should be the Long Dark. Friday, there will be no RPG on Friday. That'll be off, but the Friday after I'll be doing Fiasco over on Roll20. And then Saturday, here, for more Outer World. And I may be able to play the banjo. We will see how my practicing goes. And that's me. That's me. So, I'm going. That's it. Take care of yourselves, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Bye, everybody.